just a thing.
Oh.
There's just a gremlin.
You only slightly broke.
You should feel bad about just talking during the intro. That's what you should feel bad for.
Now you're breaking more and more.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rewind, episode number 15 for Tuesday, February 18th, 2025. My name is Marty Sleeve, and as always, joined by Darren Mooney, Jack Packard, and producer Eric. Welcome, everyone. We got a humdinger for y'all today. We're talking about the biggest, I was going to say the biggest movie in the world, but it is definitely not, because that Nija movie, the Chinese animated movie, is about to become like the biggest movie of all time.
In the history of all time. Yeah, the first movie to make, is it, what is it, like $1 billion in an individual market?
Yeah.
There's some sort of statistic about that?
It just passed Inside Out 2. It is the highest grossing animated movie of all time. Although, to be fair, I feel like Avatar 2 is ostensibly an animated movie. So
none of our markets, to be clear, just in case anybody's wondering, it made like $1 billion in a market that belongs to none of the three of us.
Yeah, right. And it was I believe it was 5th place at the US box office. But we'll be talking about what was first place, Captain America Brave New World. All three of us saw it, and listen, I'm thrilled. We have different opinions on it, which I'm thrilled, because I can't handle another episode where the three of us just agree on everything. Yeah. I can't.
Problem, there's too many good vibes.
Too many good vibes. We need to lower those down a bit, and then we'll be talking about a bunch of other movies and TV shows and whatnot we've been watching. All of us have been digging into a bunch of stuff, including some new Apple Plus movies, some new horror movies. I watched the SNL 50th anniversary special. I'm not sure why, but I enjoyed it. So there you go. How are you guys?
Wait, are you not sure why you watched it, or are you not sure why you enjoyed it?
No. I know I enjoyed it because I'm a sucker for nostalgia like that. But I watched so much related to the 50th anniversary. There was like a 3-hour concert on Friday, and then a 3.5-hour live show on Sunday. So I watched like 6 hours of 50th anniversary bonanza. And let me tell you, Paul Simon, he still got it.
Garfunkel, their hand, where the jury's still out on.
I don't know what Garfunkel looks like, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. I don't know. I assume he's taller than Paul Simon, because Paul Simon's just a little guy.
He was gettable for Futurama. That's the one thing I know about like our Garfunkel. It's like Paul Simon said no, but we got Garfunkel.
See, that's all that really matters.
Yeah.
Nice.
How are you guys doing? I know Jack and I are both getting over sicknesses. Darren, do you guys got sicknesses over there?
Yeah, we imported them. They're kind of newfangled. We're still getting into them, to be honest.
There you go.
Yeah. They flew over.
Yeah, I like it.
I think you guys have been very influential.
This sort of stuff. I like that. I liked that. Jack, the thing is, he took influential and influenza, and he combined.
Yeah,
just put them together.
I thought you just didn't get it. That's why.
Because I'm getting over a sickness, the pun physically hurt me because I started to laugh and it hurt my lungs.
That's always good. And it is great to see so many familiar faces over in the live YouTube chat. And if anyone's listening afterwards on podcast services of choice, we appreciate y'all, especially our patrons, and especially folks donating to us during the live stream, like Sussy Guru, which we could just get right in to our main topic. Sussy Guru with a €10 dono. Thank you so much, Sussy. Said, you'd think with a title like Brave New World or the original New World Order that you'd get some sort of biting social commentary, but no, it's another guy wanting revenge and mining rights? Question mark. This is, of course, in reference to the latest Captain America movie, which some critics have bemoaned as lacking any sort of pertinent messaging. But Jack, you don't agree with that.
This might be a little bit of, death of the author, reading a little too much into it. But in Captain America, Brave New World, the president of the United States is emotionally unstable, has like pettiness issues, and then goes on to destroy the institution of the White House. So I don't want to say that's biting social commentary, but it's kind of biting social commentary if you think about it.
I mean, it is. And I actually agree with you this, where I think like one of the things about this movie is that it was clearly intended at some point to be biting social commentary. Yeah. And I think like the context of it, if we're jumping right into it right off the bat, I guess, like this is one of the wave of like early 2025 media. There's another example I'm thinking of that's coming out by the end of the week, but I'm embargoed and so cannot mention by name. But there is another example of media that features a prominent 1970s star of New Hollywood as a US president that is clearly, like this movie, written in the context of being, well, look, That whole Trump thing was a big deal. That was a real narrow miss we had there. Thank goodness we've gotten over that and moved past it. And as a culture, in the words of this movie, I had to let the country put it behind them. Like the vibe of like Captain America: Brave New World is very much like a whew. We're not doing that again. While actually doing that again.
Yes. Yes. So like I think there was social commentary in there. I think like you said, it was the edges were sanded off real cleanly, but it is still there. The main thrust, the main plot of the movie is basically digging up dirt on the current president because they think that he's unstable. That's right there.
Does that make Elon Musk the leader?
He is a tech bro, like that, like, and he does have a giant forehead. Like, sorry, that shouldn't go low. I should go high, but like, tell me, look at that man, and tell me there aren't leader adjacent qualities there.
Right. Right. And so it's like, I guess like to start off actual Captain America critical discussion, here's my bar for Marvel movies, right? I like action comics. I like superhero comics because I like sci-fi and I like action. And so all I'm looking for is a good science fiction action movie. And I feel like Captain America: New World Order met that bar. I liked the action sequences. There's a literal mad scientist in it. And it was fun. It was a fun movie and I enjoyed it. So it's like, I came in with pretty low expectations and I came out going, oh man, there were some really neat action sequence. There was an action sequence in which they had a jet fighter dogfight over the corpse of a colossal alien. That's cool. That's cool as shit. And so like I came out being like, yeah, that was really neat. And then I told Marty that yesterday during a meeting, and you gave me a look of like shock and disbelief because I had a good time watching the movie.
I didn't have a runway to prepare for it. So the problem was you just had my unfiltered reaction. I'm not shocked anymore. I've gotten over it in the past 24 hours. It was just in the moment I felt shocked. Yeah,
you've seen it too, then, Marty? Yeah,
I did. Yeah, I saw it. I saw it this weekend on 9:30 a.m. on Saturday, which is when most movies are meant to be seen. And I felt like you could sense the troubled production in every second of this movie to the point where it just felt like it kept ping-ponging into being a different thing that it was at some point during one of the 20 revisions of the script.
Sure.
It felt like characters entered and exited sort of because they were a big part of a previous version of the movie, whether that, is the
Giancarlo Esposito is the great example, right? Which is a character who was literally pasted into the movie in reshoots. He did not exist in the original draft of the movie. And it's very clear that we have him for like 3 days. So it's like you get 3 scenes with him. You get the introductory scene. You get the scene where we rip off the car shootout in Winter Soldier. And then you get an exposition dump out back, which was clearly meant to be where Bucky was originally cameoing because they're like, yeah, is he out back? Yeah, sure. And nobody's like, oh, you mean the convicted prisoner who tried to murder you? It's like, no, the guy you want to see, he's out back. Like there is a lot of that there is some frankly inexcusable special effects. And when people say special effects, they assume we're talking about the Red Hulk. I actually think the Red Hulk looks pretty decent. I think the Red Hulk has like a good likeness of Harrison Ford's face. I like he has a little bit of fuzz as a fan of 70s cinema. But like there are some moments where there should not be green screen, where like Tim Blake Nelson has clearly been like parachuted back in to provide some exposition, and he's standing on a street corner, and you're looking at that image going, that's not what street corners look like.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like there are some like, oversaturated colorization. The script is quite literally just the last 2 Captain America movies, Frankenstein together. There's no denying that. Like we have mind control, and we have mind control, and we have a secret plot from the bad guy who can't fight, so he has to get someone else to fight for him. fine. It's all, but to me, it's like that's all fine because I had Bunch of Crunch, and the man with the robot wingsuit punched the other guys, and I liked that.
It just sounds like you might like Bunch of Crunch.
I love Bunch of Crunch.
Um,
I'm a big.
I actually go watch Deadpool and Wolverine with a bag of Bunch of Crunch.
I didn't have Bunch of Crunch for Deadpool Wolverine. That's true.
That was the problem. Yeah, this is a weird. You mentioned the last two Captain America movies. This is a weird thing because it feels like it is simultaneously somewhat of a sequel to those movies or a follow-up to those movies. It's a follow-up to The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which was the second Disney Plus show from 2020, I believe. It's there's a large plot point. You mentioned the giant alien of following up the Eternals. And then it also brings back a lot of iconography from the Edward Norton Hulk movie, which has been largely forgotten by everyone, except for the folks who made this movie.
I mean, again, slight spoilers for this. They're out of context. If you know what they are, you've probably seen the movie. And we're guessing those people who are listening have seen the movie. The emotional crux of Captain America, Brave New World, hinges on a scene in which two characters who have not appeared together since 2008, one of whom has not appeared since 2008, and the other one is played by a completely different actor, neither of whom have shared the screen together in any capacity, finally get a moment of emotional reconciliation. And the movie's like, look at what we did. We brought all the threads together. And I'm just sitting there in my seat going, I don't even know what these are anymore. Like, I am so emotionally lost that these movies think that this is something that I'm supposed to go, wow, you guys did it. Finally, you landed the plane. It's like, no, you landed two separate chunks of metal in the middle of a field and said that was what you planned to do. That's not, it's upside down. The wheels should be pointing towards the ground. You know?
Whoa, topical. And then
like the movie.
Like the movie. No, but also like those two pieces of metal were clearly separated by a green screen. They could not even share a single camera frame, which was ultimately incredibly disappointing. And so, like, I agree with you that is a strike against the movie, that the emotional crux of the movie basically hinged on there might be a cameo, huh?
But like, who's rooting for that cameo?
Who's rooting?
Like, who has been like going to like Avengers Infinity War going, that was pretty good. Didn't have what I want. It goes to Endgame. Pretty good. Didn't have what I want. And they're like, Captain America, Brave New World. Finally. And like the thing that bugs me is that like there is a way to do what they're trying to do there. Like this is the emotional crux of the story you mentioned is like the love of a father and his daughter. It's Betty Ross and it is Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross. And like the way to do that then is to thread that relationship in the context of the movie you're watching. So you could, for example, take out a random character from the movie. Let's just pick a random example, not a controversial one at all. Let's say there were an Israeli character who had been massively controversial in light of world events that had happened recently. And that character didn't necessarily do a lot in terms of plot function, didn't seem to have a purpose for being there. If you were to like take them out and replace them with, say, Betty Ross and have her be a part of the movie, then the end of the movie would have like an emotionally satisfying resolution where you would have spent time with this character, understand this character, know what she wants, and be invested in the payoff that comes at the end. But instead, the movie is like, nah, you guys really remember the Incredible Hulk, right? Like, you guys have been really zoning for a sequel to that one. Nobody ever shuts up about the Incredible Hulk.
Not even these movies seem to remember the Incredible Hulk. Like, this character does not get brought up. Bruce Banner does not bring this character up in any of his like previous 5 appearances.
He has a separate romantic interest in like 2 of them. Like, she has 2 love interests ago for Bruce Banner. Like, they dropped the love interest they replaced this love interest with. Like.
Oh, yeah. And I guess, like, to me, again, like, all of this stuff is very valid if we're going to talk about this as a real movie. But I don't
setting a low bar.
Well, but I guess that, like,
Careful
you know,
there, Marty.
now, you know, my extreme correlation here is something like the John Wick movies, right?
Yeah.
When you watch John Wick, I think there's a lot of plot points in which you can pick apart. There's a lot of construction that you can say none of this is necessarily like makes sense. Like they drop all of this weird lore about like gold and whatnot and the mystery of the world, but none of that matters because John Wick is an action movie and we get awesome action sequences, so we don't care. And so that's my equivalent here, where it's like I want the sci-fi and the action, and I got it. So,
I'm anxious about being like, shut up, Jack, you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong. Everybody's opinion is entirely valid. But like, if I were to push back just a little bit on the like John Wick example, the thing about John Wick is, you're right. We do not care about the gold coins. We don't care about any of that nonsense. The Continental. Yeah. They tried making an Amazon miniseries about that. How'd that go for them? But like, we do care about the emotional hook of the movies. Like the movies go out of their way to give you an emotional in on John Wick in the first one with the dog. It isn't. Thank you. Eric literally got there before I did. But like, that is how good Eric is. But like, those movies give you an in, so you root with the character. You understand what the dog is. You understand what the dog represents. You even get to spend a little bit of time with Helen, his wife, before she dies, or through the video after she dies, and so understand that the dog is a spiritual connection to his wife and all this. So like, that stuff is all there in the movie. And admittedly, as the John Wick movies go on, they distance themselves from Helen, but Helen ceases to be a central concern thematically for the movies as they go on, where like John Wick Chapter 2 is not about Helen, it's about John, and it's about John himself struggling to pull himself out. So it's like, I think this would be more like if John spent the entirety of like John Wick Chapter 2 talking about Helen, and you didn't get to see Helen at all. And then at the end, like Michelle Monaghan shows up, but not on the same day as Keanu Reeves. And they're like, isn't it great? The two of them are back together. It's like, it's a very strange dynamic.
Also pretend that they're both standing in front of real streets. not green screen. I think that was ultimately the pill I couldn't swallow is I also literally couldn't swallow because I was sick. But while I was sick, I was rewatching the first season of Daredevil. And it has some problems. It's probably 5 episodes too long. 13 episodes. I don't know what happened to me as a human being, but a 13 episode season seems insane to me now. I'm like, you can't make 13 hours of television.
Prestige filled, yeah.
Are you done? Meanwhile, I'm gonna go back and rewatch X-Files and Lost.
How's Lost going for you?
But at the very least, when there's a scene that takes place on a street, it's filmed on a street. And when there's a scene that takes place in a building, they found a building. And I just never felt like I was ever anywhere in this. I felt like when you load into like Assassin's Creed and you're just running around the Animus while the world is being built around you, that's what just everything felt. The emotional crux of the final fight of the movie takes place. It's supposed to be about the beauty of the cherry blossoms in DC, which cherry blossoms are fucking gorgeous. Like if you've ever seen cherry blossoms in real life, this made cherry blossoms so ugly. And I'm like, how is the whole crux of your movie being like this one time a year when these flowers bloom, when these trees bloom, this is the thing that reminds him of his daughter. And it's fucking ugly when you did it. I'm like, can you not just build some fake ass flowers? Like you have $400 million for a Red Hulk and you can't build some fake trees?
And I love that we measure the value of movies now in Red Hulks. But like, also the fact that like it's like your daughter who's very important to you, is she going to be in this scene? No. Like but we got the cherry blossoms. We got some CGI cherry blossoms.
Yeah, something. Yeah. I think these are all fair. These are all fair complaints. And I do want to, this is not me pedaling back. What I do want to emphasize is that I think the movie is good. I don't think the movie is great. I don't even think the movie is capital G good. I did not regret buying my ticket.
I should be clear. I don't think this is the worst Marvel movie by any stretch of the imagination. I think, like, again, if we want to set the comments up, I think this is better than Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't think it's even lowercase good is the bit that I'm personally struggling to get to.
And that's all fine. Yeah. We all get to have our own opinions. But it's like, let's kind of I'm going to try to pivot to my points, which is like, what did you feel? What did you think about the action sequences? In my opinion, we had some really good fights. I even really enjoyed the Falcon versus Red Hulk fight at the end, which is a very difficult thing to balance. But like, did you feel the action was visceral enough for you?
I think the costume is a problem for me, if we're being entirely frank. Where it is
The
very
Captain America
clear.
costume with the wings.
The Captain America costume. Well, not even. It's not the wings. It's the padding on it. It's the way in which it's designed to. Again, this is the thing where it's designed to be quote unquote comics accurate, which means that it's got a big bulky midsection. So Anthony Mackie cannot he has to Michael Keaton it, which is turn his entire upper body, so that when he has action sequences, one of two things is happening. One, it's a stunt double in a different suit, which is quite apparent to me, and the other thing is it's CGI, which is also quite apparent to me. And those are the two things that for me took me out of the action sequence, which is a shame, because as we mentioned, the Russo brothers, to their credit, I think their action sequences on the Winter Soldier were very, very good. And I think this is a movie that is very pointedly trying to recapture the Winter Soldier, where it runs through the checklist of Winter Soldier scenes. It opens with oh my God, there's a hostage crisis that involves a conspiracy theory about people who shouldn't be here working in a secret agency inside the US government. Then as our hero is on the phone, he's ambushed while in his car on a road by a guy with a grenade launcher. Then there's a sequence where a guy is on an operating table, but don't worry, we've got a cameo to come in and explain the stakes to you. And oh, by the way, the villain is also an icon of 1970s American cinema. It is trying to do the Winter Soldier over again. And you're right, there are elements of Civil War as well, with the oh no, my buddy has been convicted of a crime he committed under mind control. But it doesn't do any of the things that movie did well, is the problem for me. Where it the action in the Winter Soldier, I think, is quite good, give or take the finale. I'm not a big fan of the helicarriers falling out of the sky, because we paid to render those models for Avengers, so you're gonna use them. But I do think that the fight sequences, the rooftop stuff, the street battle are quite fun to watch. And here I was just reminded of better action sequences, if that makes sense.
Fair.
Sorry.
No, I think that's very fair. And I guess this might just be the problem with the amount that comes out. But I just go back to kind of the most recent Marvel outputs, thinking about the Marvels, or thinking about Deadpool and Wolverine, and thinking about how the action in those was was even less. So to me, this is a step up from those. Obviously, either a step down or a side step from the source material. I want to say, even during the hostage situation, Captain America even has the same line of jumping out of the plane without a parachute, or a very similar line where it's just oh, this is we're just doing this, huh? Okay, all right.
Yeah,
bit of a sidewinder, eh?
That was the name of a character in the movie, which you probably wouldn't know, because I think they say it once.
Yeah.
I'm also upset. Originally, when they first shot this movie, WWE superstar Seth Rollins was one of the main bad guys, and he's just not in the movie.
And
I paid for a whole ticket to see. I don't know. I think he was going to play some, if not that member of the Serpent Society, some member of the Serpent Society. And then they were we're worried because he's not popular enough. Let's get the guy from Breaking Bad everyone likes and give him 5 lines of dialogue.
Wasn't there also Rosa Salazar was supposed to be Diamondback? Because they have actual figures of Diamondback.
Could you imagine if we just had a bunch of characters named after snakes? How cool that would have been.
If they were in some sort of society, perhaps, of serpents.
We live in a society of snakes.
Yeah. Again, somebody pointed this out, the reason perhaps why there is such an emphasis on the Israeli Black Widow character is because somebody at Marvel realized that doing a movie called New World Order about a secret society of lizard-themed villains maybe had some uncomfortable subtext. But it's kind of fun that you get so far down we have rewritten and reshot this movie so many times that you lose the thing that you're initially reacting against.
Yeah. And I also wish they would have just, you mentioned, I feel like the subtext and the messaging on Red Hulk is there. I understand it. Mm-hmm. I feel like they just fumbled messaging on Anthony Mackie as a character, which that messaging and those themes are there in the Disney Plus series. And the Disney Plus series has its own problems, but I think when it's really good and when it's dealing with who this guy is, he's a fucking human in a world of superhumans and gods, and he's in the shadow of the most important American of all time, and B, he's a black man trying to do it, and they deal with that in the show, and that's a thing they touch on it a little bit with the Isaiah Bradley thing in this movie, but it seems like they are, maybe at some point the script was committed to it, but it just feels like at some point in this movie being cobbled together from 10 different movies, that's just lost somewhere along the way.
This is one of the things that really irritated me watching it, where one of the central arcs of like Isaiah Bradley's thing is that like he was the Black Captain America. He was the first Black Captain America. In the Marvel comics, he's the first Captain America. In like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he's a Captain America. But he was the Black Captain America who was taken away by the government and experimented upon. And it was this horrible thing that happened that we should all be ashamed of. And the show, to its credit, for all its myriad problems, did at least acknowledge that like there is a history, there is a historical context in which this character exists, of the Tuskegee syphilis experiment, for example, the radiation trials that like Clinton apologized for. There is like a cultural context for understanding this character. Mm-hmm. And what's really, really, really bizarre, and it's to Marty's point, it is something that feels like it was in the script and then redrafted over, and whether consciously, you know, depending on how cynical you want to be, or just through like the 19 different writers playing Chinese whispers or whatever it is, it gets lost, where this movie hinges on the revelation that the President of the United States has been detaining a man without trial, experimenting on him illegally, using radiation, quite literally, and basically literally changed the color of his skin so he is no longer white, in a piece of none too subtle social commentary. And the movie is like, man, it's really weird that we have a plot about like Isaiah Bradley being locked up again and how wrong that is. And we also have a plot about this other man who was locked up and experimented upon by the US government. But Anthony Mackie is constantly like, look, we need to give Ross the benefit of the doubt. We need to believe that America is trying to be better. We have to believe that America has learned its lessons and would never do these things again. Like, there's the moment where, like, he's staring at the big red Hulk that is tearing through Washington, D.C., and he unironically says, I know you've made some mistakes, Mr. President, but I believe you're trying to do better. And it's like, you kept a man in a dungeon, dosed him with radiation, and refused to let him go so that he could give you heart meds. I feel like if you were trying, you were not trying hard enough, Mr. President. Like,
yeah, and that's that definitely that sanding of the edges that we were talking about earlier, of just like at one point this was possibly a very coherent message of a script. Possibly. And yeah, like, I think if you get into the themes, like, it is definitely one of those, like, it stumbles over its myriad of themes on whether or not this is about forgiveness or justice or being patient or fighting against the system, because it's all of those things, and it makes it for a worse viewing experience. 100%.
Like, there's a moment in the trailer that is more interesting than anything in the movie, which is the moment where, like, Ross is sitting in the chair and he says, "You're no Steve Rogers," which is in the movie. And in the trailer, Wilson responds, "I know," and walks away, which is infinitely more interesting than anything that happens in the movie, which is like, "You're no Steve Rogers," and the movie's like, "I guess he's not." And let's not engage with that idea in any meaningful sense.
Now, to be fair, on that
Chris
point
Evans is returning in Secret Wars, we promise. Sorry, Jack.
Oh, no. To be fair to that point specifically, that is what the show dealt with. One of the things I actually really liked about the movie is initially, you know, our first scene with Anthony Mackie, he's in a bar or something, right? And everyone just, hey, Captain, hey, Captain, hey, Captain. Mm-hmm. The movie doesn't retread what the series went over, his internal struggle on whether or not he's Captain America. He knows that he's Captain America, and the world knows, because they literally, you know, look into the camera and say, man, that is Captain America right there. I think so.
But except Harrison Ford, like, you go out of your way to have Harrison Ford say, "You're not Captain America." And
to be fair, he's the bad guy. He's the bad guy.
And Anthony Mackie's like, "I think you're trying to be a better man." Like Anthony Mackie's response to that is like, "You made some good points, Mr. President." Like,
can we talk about the state of who these folks get to vote for? Not even, and I get, as an American, I have no leg to stand on.
Oh, we're gonna talk about.
I want to talk about, this is a little spoiler, but Bucky Barnes, Sebastian Stan, makes a little appearance near the end of the movie. He is running for Congress. Also, I believe canonically he killed John F. Kennedy.
He killed like the Starks anyway. Like, it's like
Like, are we fine with vote? Like, it'd be like America's being like, fuck it. I guess Timothy McVeigh should be a congressman from New York.
Look, Marty,
that was a while ago. Like, what are we doing?
I am a guest in a podcast in your country, and I do not want to be rude, but can you imagine if a country were to elect to a high office somebody who had been convicted of a crime? How insane would that be? Like, I honestly
our guy doesn't even have a cool metal arm. He doesn't have a Wakandan arm.
Are we calling him our guy? Is that what we're doing now?
I believe he's my guy, right?
I think, like, what we can assume is, Marty, you are correct. Like in one of the like many like little mini montages of in the Winter Soldier, it is alluded to that Bucky kills John F. Kennedy during one of his several thaw outs. But this is also a world in which the records that we know mind control is a thing that exists. And so, like, at very least, Bucky can be like, hey, like the magical race of African people removed the magical mind control that was keeping me magically alive. And it's like, that's all things that are that the world can say, yeah, okay.
Like, again, this is me, Darren, thinking far too much about this stuff because I'm a big stinking nerd, right? But like, one of the things about the end of Endgame is that like Steve gives the shield to Falcon. He gives it to Sam, right?
Yeah.
Who is his new friend. And like, he loves Sam. He spends a lot of time with Sam. He gets to know Sam. He has a great deal of respect for Sam. But like, Bucky is his best friend. Bucky is the guy that like Steve went to like war for repeatedly. And so the fact that he chooses Sam over Bucky in the films, now in the comics, he chooses Bucky and then he chooses Sam. Sam gets to go second. But in the movies, the fact that he picked Sam first, I always read as him understanding that I cannot let the man who killed JFK be Captain America. So it is bizarre that the movies then pivot from, you know what? Sam is like a much more acceptable face of Captain America. He's a veteran. He's serviced. He's a counselor. But you know what Bucky needs to do? What, go to prison? No. Mr. Barnes goes to Washington, baby.
But I guess like all I'm saying is like there is the base reality of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Former assassin, 130-year-old Bucky Barnes being a congressman kind of tracks. In the real world, someone who was convicted of election fraud being elected is far more crazy to me.
I mean, how long do we think that like Ross is before? Like, is Ross getting a second term in 4 years? Like, that's the question I have coming out of this movie. Like,
and Ross starts being like, "Hey, I may have destroyed Harlem, but he killed JFK." It's like, what are we doing here? Do we not have a third-party candidate we could choose?
The MCU says, "Well, at least he's on our side."
I like how quickly I went from at the beginning of the movie. Granted, I'm going to be honest. I think I still had sort of like a post-fever haze. And at the beginning of the movie, I feel like they're like, we found the Celestial's body in the Indian Ocean, and we dug into it, and turns out it's cum as adamantium. And I'm like, that's what you put in Wolverine? This big guy's cum? And I immediately just got over that when they were like, oh, by the way, Bucky Barnes is running for Congress. I was like, what? Like, I completely left the adamantium thing behind.
And the adamantium thing is like so cynical because it like so much of this movie feels like, we talked about like all the political stuff they took out. It really does feel like what they put back in was just, hey, remember when? It's like the nerds won't care that like Ross doesn't have a coherent political ideology as long as Harrison Ford says the word adamantium like enough times over the course of the movie. Like, it's like, because this is the thing with the giant celestial body, right? Which is this thing that appeared in Eternals. And like Marty and I, like Jack, as much as we have been picking on you for you liking this movie more than we did, myself and Marty both enjoy Eternals more than most people.
Big Eternals. You know why? Because when they film outside, it's actually outside.
Yeah. I was not re-legislating this. I was more doing a mea culpa. But like the thing is that the Eternal is interesting in the context of Eternals, or the Celestial is important in the context of Eternals, because that's what the movie's about. Yeah. Here, it's just a bit of continuity, right? Like, why? Like, the reason they're fighting over the Eternal is like, the Celestial. I need to stop saying Eternal. The reason they're fighting over the Celestial, and they call it Celestial Island, which sounds incredibly like a tourist resort. Go visit Celestial Island.
There's like a water slide down its like pinky finger.
Yeah.
It just goes into the ocean.
100%.
But like the reason they're fighting over it is so the movie can gesture broadly at the idea of like American foreign policy and be like, man, isn't it odd that America has alienated all of its major international allies? I wonder if that reminds you of anything going on. But without actually having to deal with like colonialism or imperialism. It's like the Vietnam War. If you just like, strange that there was nobody living in this country before we decided to wander over. Like, it is such a sanitized version of what the movie is gesturing towards that it is distracting.
I think that's fair, though. That is another arguably good little bit of political satire, is the president, who, by the way, is clearly being manipulated by a foreign interest, is making things worse, which is like, that is a very good social commentary, assuming they stick the landing, which I admit they do not.
I mean, again, there are so many weird like little moments that knock me out of this. The moment where the Japanese prime minister is like, it turns out that you stole the adamantium from us. You've been lying to us, Mr. President. He goes, I assure you I haven't. And the film is very clearly meant to have you go, oh my God, why is the Japanese prime minister picking on Ross? This poor old man who did nothing wrong, while Ross has Tim Blake Nelson chained down in a basement making heart meds for him. There is a real sense of the movie not knowing where its conscience lies and where its interest lies and where its heart lie. And like, again, one of the really... Again, sorry to nitpick this stuff, but this just really bugged me.
No, go ahead.
There's a moment where like they figure out that the leader has been dosing Ross. It's the least subtle plot twist in the history of cinema, even before you put the Red Hulk in all your advertising material. But they figure this out by having like Sam's friend Dennis Duggan receive a phone call saying, oh my God, they've been dosing the president. And Dennis Duggan goes, okay, I better call Sam, tell him they're dosing the president. And he goes and he moves away. And then Samuel Stern shows up like, sorry, I can't let you tell Sam Wilson that I've been dosing the president. I got to kill you. I don't want to enjoy it, but I got to kill you so he doesn't find out about it. Then in literally the next scene, Samuel Stern walks up to Sam Wilson in the middle of a public park and says, by the way, I've been dosing the president. And Sam Wilson goes, I already figured that out, but seemingly didn't do anything about it. I'm like,
listen, I
how's that press conference going on at the moment?
I was the one who did this. You don't get to reveal my plan. Like, I get to reveal my plan. I get that. If you work hard on something, you don't want someone else to reveal it. You want to be able to.
You don't want him to take credit for it. Yeah.
Stepping on my toes.
I do love how economical the post-credits scene was, where you go to the raft. Did you stay for the post-credits scene? Because it was like 15 minutes of credits, Jack. Yeah. So I don't.
Oh, I did stay for the post-credit scene. I now though don't necessarily remember the post-credit scene because I don't believe it revealed anything.
Sam goes to the raft, which is a prison that shows up like once every 10 years. I think like Baron Zemo might be in the raft. Maybe there might be someone else in that octagon. But he's talking to the
guy from Luke Cage season 1 is in there canonically. I think it's just him throwing like a tennis ball against the wall.
Yeah, just extremely bored. But the leader I love is just like, some dudes are coming. And that's the post-credit scene.
That's it.
That could have been the post-credit scene of every single Marvel movie of being like, you think that was bad? Some other dudes are coming.
Some other dudes are coming.
Dudes are coming.
We don't get a name drop of the dudes. We don't get an allusion to who the dudes might be. It's just like, hey, guess what? Oh, it's right around the corner. Something.
Dudes are on the way, which is great because they don't know what's going on these next movies. So just say some dudes are coming.
Well, this is the thing where it's like, I would arguably hate it more, but also respect it more if they had done the very obvious thing of like, because he does the whole build up. It's like, you know about these other worlds. They have heroes. What do you think their heroes have done when they're faced with it? And Wilson goes, faced with what? And the camera closes in on Stearns and you're like, say it, say doom, say doom, say doom, say doom. And he just goes, the others. And it's like Michael Emerson is coming to the MCU.
That's why Lost was so smart, because it'd be like, we're going to call this the others and we'll figure out what that means next year. Because when they got too specific, they're like, every Kang is played by Jonathan Majors. That's when they fuck themselves over. Yep. You can't do that. No one's going to get canceled if you just say there's others. Fucking half of them could get arrested and you could be like, no, we're talking about other dudes. It's fine.
Other dudes.
Yeah. The idea that like Robert Downey Jr. slips and falls in his, 80 trailer encampment he has off the clock. We got a hard pivot to Let me see what's in here. Let me see what's in here. Let me see what. Mahershala Ali and Kit Harington.
Definitely a couple of dudes. Couple of dudes coming.
That's some dudes. Those are some others right there. By the way, yes, if you watch, which is it's probably on YouTube, that post-credit sequence, watch it, and Darren is not exaggerating. You are just waiting for him to say the word doom, because every single line he says, it's set up to say doom at the end of it, and he does not. And the theater I was in, the people who stayed for the theater, like, we all literally did that thing where we just looked around at each other to go, that was it? That's what we get? Like, that wasn't that. It was not a reveal. It was not a little extra dose of anything. It was not a tease. It was, hey, it might get worse. That's all I'm saying.
Dudes might be on their way.
There's 3 movies coming out in the next like 2 years. Like, just so you're clear. Like, it is such a nothingbird of an ending, because it's also very much like, look, I realize I wasted everybody's time. Like, it's very much like, because Wilson's like, what was your big end game here? And it's like, well, funny you should mention it, where there is a new Avengers movie coming.
Maybe I'm part of the problem. But after all this conversation, I'm really excited for the Thunderbolts.
I am like, Loki. It could be great.
Loki is not
terrible.
in that film. He's not one of the characters in that film.
Very good.
I'm hoping that the Thunderbolts uses this opportunity to not take themselves so seriously and have fun, because I think the best part of even the worst of the Marvel movies is when they are having fun with it, when they have fun action sequence, when the characters are riffing and having a good time. And the Thunderbolts is prime to just have fun with the premise of people of extraordinary ability being not so great at their job.
Also, we get an update on Bucky's congressional campaign. That's going to be cool. What is he going to bring that gun out at debates? Is he going to bring that that mine shooter
pin on him? Doesn't he? Like in the trailer, he does have like a little Senate pin on him.
I
believe he wins his election. Yeah,
I believe in the trailer. Yes, he is a congressman. I think, as far as the Thunderbolts are concerned.
There. I'm also. What
is your congressman doing for you? Question mark.
Exactly. They're not going out on fucking spec ops missions. I'm also really excited for Fantastic Four. I saw the trailer again. I started theory crafting. I think this movie's gonna be a little bit darker than we think. These people are pretending that they're a perfect family. They're not a perfect family. They got some secrets. I know they got some secrets. They can't hide them from me.
Mr. J. Jonah Jameson over here.
Are you pictures of the Human Torch?
Pictures of the thing. Here's my secret. I did not watch the trailer for Fantastic Four. Because I don't necessarily care. I will watch it when it comes out, but I have never cared for the Fantastic Four. So the nice thing is I get to go in not knowing anything. I'm not going to watch any trailers. I'm not going to learn anything about it. I'm just going to watch it as a movie and not know anything going in. So I'm excited about that.
It is weird to see The Thing and to just have Eben Moss-Backrack's voice just come. It's just the voice of cousin Richie from The Bear.
Yeah.
Like, it's not changed or pitched at
not
all.
Lowered or anything. And like when he moves, there are like somebody pointed out, you do have to listen closely. You can hear like a little bit of rock, but you have to strain to hear it. And it's like, there's no way that guy is that quiet. Like,
you just want like grinding stone every time.
Like, he should just be standing still, and whenever he moves, it should be a moment. Like, that's
that is a weird, that much like kind of the stretchy powers or figuring out capes in general in movies is like figuring out the logistics of like very heavy Rockman moves. It's gonna sound terrible.
This is not if Christopher Nolan directed this movie, you wouldn't just be able to hear any line of dialogue. So you'd be like, you need the rocks louder.
We actually had the actor shout through 7 buckets of rocks.
And it would be a better movie for it, Jack.
By the way, it would be. No, I'm the thing I'm most concerned about with the Fantastic Four. This is something I've talked about for a long time. Is I don't believe in any live action movie they have gotten stretchy powers to look good. I cannot think of a live action movie in which stretchy powers don't look very stupid.
You know where they look?
Taylor Lautner's Stretch Armstrong movie.
That can't be a real movie.
That's not a real.
Is that the werewolf boy from Twilight?
That is the who has his own Amazon TV show. Oh, he dropped out of it 14 years ago. So my bad.
Sounds like more than one person has forgotten about this movie. Then I was going to say, Jill M says, I think One Piece did a decent job of it. I think Luffy's stretchy in the Netflix series is decent. It's also not used very often.
And that was going to be my counterpoint. I agree with you, actually. I think Luffy in the One Piece live action did look good. I want to say they used it 3 times.
Yeah. And one of the times was where he did that cool thing with his mouth.
So that is my big concern is I just think Mr. Fantastic is like when you have a shot like this where it's just an R, like his gum missile or whatever you call it, Marty, what do you call it?
I think Gum Missile. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. I watched the season 1 and that's about it.
That's all I watched too. I've never watched any of the anime.
I've read some of the manga because my kids are big One Piece fans, and far too many tits. So
Like you make it sound like it's an odd number of tits. Like it's just like
it's like Total
one
Recall.
more or one less. Yeah, one more or one less.
That was the thing. There was 7, and I could never quite get it to.
My OCD kicked in, and I was like, "What's going on here?"
By the way, that was just a joke. I just stopped reading because I stopped reading it. You do the gum missile. Oh, it stretches, and you punch. Like that's your stretchy. That's fine. You can't have an entire Mr. Fantastic based around that. Mr. Fantastic is a body horror monstrosity, and I don't think they're going to make it look good. Or I'm worried that they're not going to make it look good. So that's my big concern.
It is telling that we did not see any of his stretchy powers in the trailer. That we saw everyone else doing their things except for Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes, because the movie finished shooting last Wednesday. Like that is the thing that you need to remember about this movie. Is that like this is the thing about it and Superman coming out so close together. Gunn's like, yeah, we got Superman in the can, and like the Fantastic Four guys like, we're still working on a script. We might have a director. Like it's like
Right. And I know for like the Marvels and for Miss Marvel, like they just abandoned stretchy powers. They're like, nope, she is not embiggening or debiggening. It is now purple glowy stuff because we can't make that look good.
You know what's boring? Purple glowy stuff.
Yeah. Hey, it's no green glowy stuff, to be fair to Ryan Reynolds. Like,
yeah, it's true.
I do. A part of me is a little eye rolly and a little appreciative that we do have this kind of like Wakandan energy absorption to be the auto aim. If you remember Alien Romulus of like the gun auto aims of like, who cares if Sam Wilson can take a punch from the Hulk because he has this Wakandan shield on him. So like it part of me is like, yeah, okay, that explains it. And part of me is a little eye rolly that we have to explain it because these are stupid movies, y'all.
This is the thing with Jack. I don't need it explained. It's just like he takes a punch from like the Hulk because this is his movie. It's like if he takes a punch from the Hulk and it's like splattered across like the Cherry Blossom Avenue, that's not a Captain America movie. That's a Hulk movie, like with a supporting performance from Captain America.
Yes,
like I accept when I buy the ticket that like he is probably going to take a punch or two from the big red man. Like this is like with power scaling. It's like Superman. Superman is always as powerful as the script needs him to be. That is the key to this. That has always been the key to this. How strong is the Hulk? The Hulk is as strong as the script needs him to be. You go back and you read Hulk comics and it's like sometimes he struggles to lift a train. On the other hand, he he pulls the earth literally apart.
Yes.
It all depends. It's all variable. Like, and which is fine. Which is, that's the fun of it. As you say, like these movies should be fun. The fun of watching the big red man throw the wingy man around is the joy of it. And I wish I got more joy out of that stuff than I did from this movie.
I wish Leader's head was bigger. I don't like that it was just boils. Give him a big head. Give him a big, large cone head.
Honestly, I'll be with you there. That we needed a big, ugly head. Yeah.
Like Peter Sarsgaard in Speaking of Green Lantern, he had a big head in that movie. And let me tell you, things were better off for it.
No notes on that one. That's the one thing you have no notes on.
Head was great. It was huge.
does feel a little bit like, again, this feels like a reshoot thing, because a lot of Tim Blake Nelson stuff was reshoots. A lot of his stuff is obviously in shadow, but a lot more stuff is in shadow than needs to be. There are sequences where he's walking around wearing a hoodie and he has no reason to be doing so, because other times he's just happy wearing it out and proud. And you can tell it's because Tim Blake Nelson ain't sitting in a fucking makeup chair for another 3 hours. But like the design of like the Funko Pops and the toys is much more traditional, much more green, regular head but slightly larger, and a kind of a kind of a tailored beard on it. And it does feel like one of the directions of reshoots was no, make it lumpy.
We can get lumpy on his head real fast. We can do that real fast.
I do like
Just
the
slap
telltale
it on
sign
there.
of a troubled production now is looking at the Funko Pops of being like, ooh, this is what the movie was originally. Let me tell you, Funko Pops, those guys got big heads.
Yeah.
You want to talk about someone with a big head?
I love the idea of like that being the future of like you know, cultural anthropology is like, but if you look at the Funko Pop collection,
it's like cutting a tree and looking at the rings to see like what happened this winter.
America at the peak of its culture was producing thousands of Funko Pops in a year.
Oh, what a nightmare.
Yeah.
A bunch of super chats came in related to the movie, not related to the movie. Let's go over some of those. Anixia, I've been in the Green Gang for 15 months. Thank you so much, Anixia. Jack looks like he'd forge you a legendary sword.
Hold on, we'll try to. I'm working on the curl. I think it can work for me. There we go.
Have you ever forged? You feel like someone who's forged.
I've never I craft quite a lot. I have never forged.
What is the difference between the two of those? I said it without realizing I don't know what forging is.
I assume forging is metal. Is
Metal,
like
right?
is you know, yeah. I'm a badass with a hot glue gun and some fabric scissors, but metal is a little out of my skill range.
Sure.
Yeah.
I like it.
Forge implies fire, right?
Sure.
The forge is a thing full of fire, right? That's what a forge is. Yeah.
Forge was also an X-Man.
Forge is
him.
also an X-Man.
He was cool.
True.
Who forged
Sovereign.
things.
He forged things like a forge. Sovereign with a 5-0.
Charles Xavier, not the most creative minded individual.
Not really, no. Listen,
see,
there's so many X-Men. You got the one that just
you got
one
beams coming out of your eyes. It gives you one Cyclops. That's the guy. That's you can create weather systems.
Kind of a bully.
Storm.
Tell
Charles
me
Xavier was like a mean girl.
You create storms. That's the name now. Wait.
Oh, you're Russian. Colossus. It's
like, ooh, yeah.
hey, you're Irish. Banshee. It's like, actually, that's a woman. I said Banshee.
And then Fungus Finder with a $2 dono. Thank you so much. Is it cruel to ask who this movie was for?
I guess at the end of the day, and here's where my cynicism will show, this movie at the end of the day was for the shareholders. Like this movie probably started out with the best intentions of being something that general audiences, fans can enjoy, but with rewrites and reshoots, which, yes, painfully obvious. This was just like, let's try not to lose so much money on this movie at the end of the day. I still enjoyed it. I say that I'm probably never going to watch it again. There will never be a want to rewatch this, unless I do like the rewatch of the whole series. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, this was just stop the hemorrhaging, please, dear God, stop the hemorrhaging.
I'm gonna go further. I'd say this is a movie designed for 4 quadrants. Like, this is the thing where it was like, this was clearly like greenlit in the orgasmic haze that followed like Marvel's arrive on streaming, where it was like every streaming show is going straight to the movies, babe. Where like this and Thunderbolts are both sequels to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Marvel's second TV show, which did not end well, to be clear. Like, these movies were like greenlit halfway through like the release cycle when everybody was still like bug-eyed and like, oh my God, they made TV shows of this stuff and it worked. Not at the end when they're like, maybe it didn't work and maybe we should go back to the drawing board. And like, so this is a movie that was like commissioned in like 2021, 2022. And like, it does feel like it is trying to stay with the zeitgeist and trying to be a movie for every possible audience, which means that it is a movie for no audience whatsoever. Where like so much of this stuff is like, we do not want to alienate Red Hulk state America. Like, we do not want to make anybody watching this movie feel uncomfortable. We do not want to raise any issues that might like raise uncomfortable conversations in like Disney families, particularly when Bob Iger has said our mission is, you know, not to message but to entertain. Like when we are removing transgender characters from like Pixar shorts, for example, when we're telling writers to tone down like themes and political messaging, like that is who this movie is for. This movie is for Disney's conception of what the American zeitgeist is at the moment, which is a zeitgeist that does not want content or anything that makes them feel even mildly outside their kind of nostalgic comfort zone, perhaps. I'm sorry. I think that's
How dare you make me think thoughts?
sorry.
Get out of town. It's a nightmare. Yeah, Fungus Fighter with the $2 dono said, okay, but why was he red though? I think you answered it. I think Darren just answered it. Also, he's red because it plays well off the very fake cherry blossoms. Red goes with the fake.
He's red because Red Hulk is red.
Like, yeah, that's it exactly. Like it does kind of suck that he's not hot. Like, and I don't mean hot sexy. You know, I think there were just enough tits in this movie, Jack, for being honest. But like, I think Red Hulk's thing is like the angrier he gets, the hotter he gets in the comics, which is one of those stupid.
Literally steaming.
Literally steaming, and it's like that is the kind of stupid superpower that I would have loved to have had in this movie. But yeah, there we go. Thank you, Eric.
His clothes do burn off of him, and there is some sequences in the cherry blossoms where the blossoms are landing on him and sizzling, is what I will say.
Okay, well, with chest hair like that, who could?
I was wondering why that happened, but so now I know. There we go.
There you go.
Like, wait a minute.
And he's red because red is a primary color that prints very well on the page, and because like we were doing
his name's
like
Red Hulk. What the fuck? If he was a different color, everyone would be like, "Why is he called Red Hulk?"
Oh, it's like one of those dementia tests where it's like, "What is the color? Type the color of this Hulk." Like, it's purple Hulk. He's red. That's Red Hulk. He's yellow. Yeah.
There are 3 lights. There are 3 lights.
Sovereign with a €5 dono. Thank you so much, Sovereign. Not to go off topic this early, but I just want to congratulate Jack and Company on the Adventures Night Season 4 premiere. You guys really outdid yourself.
Every other Saturday. So not this Saturday, but next Saturday, episode 2, season 4. It's happening. Every other Saturday, new episode of Adventures Night. Brand new, never seen before episode of Adventures Night. So excited that.
And without giving any details, because I have no details, right before we went live, Jack and Eric looked at something that seemingly will appear in an episode down the line, and I've never heard Eric laugh that hard. So I have no idea what it is, but it sounds like it'll be good.
Omar is sharing some animation tests in our video editors channel, and for things that will appear in later episodes of Adventures Now. And yes, Eric needed to close Slack so he would stop giggling, which made me very, very happy. Yeah,
always a good sign.
That's what you want. Like that's exactly what you want.
Fat Cock with a $2 dono. Thank you so much, Fat Cock. Craven is the best movie of 2025. Fat Cock. That movie came out last year. What are we doing?
Whoa.
You could say it was the best movie.
You're not a true Craven fan at all.
No, I'm not a true Fat Cock at all.
Craven I will say the thing where I'm like, Thunderbolts could secretly be the best superhero movie of the year. Last year, my money was on Craven, so don't follow me at all. Like last year, I was like, it's directed by J.C. Shander, the guy who did Martian Call, the guy who did A Most Violent Year, the guy who did Triple Frontier. You know, it could be a solid 3-star movie, and in a year that gave us Deadpool and Wolverine, Madam Web, you know, the fucking Venom movie, etc. Like the 3-star J.C. Shander movie could be the best superhero movie of the year. Reader, I was wrong. I'm willing to put my hands up and say that I misjudged the situation.
What was the best superhero movie last year?
The People's Joker, I think, if you count its US releases, 2023.
Which you
otherwise,
this week.
Yeah, otherwise, I'm going to have to say it, I'm going to make people angry. Not a good movie, but the best superhero movie of last year, Joker Folie à Deux. No. Not a good movie. Not a good movie. I'm getting out there ahead of this. Not a good movie. The best superhero movie of last year.
The People's Joker, which made the festival circuit last year, phenomenally bizarre.
Yes. It's an outsider art superhero. Yes. Yeah, like it's great. Like it's incredible that the movie exists, and it does that thing that I love about like it takes this kind of like big epic American mythology and uses it to tell a deeply personal story, which is exactly what I've always kind of loved about comic books and blockbusters and all this sort of stuff. You know.
Which, of course, is part of the theming is how much they love that as well. And highly recommend if you're a big old sicko like us.
Yeah. If you have a tolerance for like, questionable green screen, outsider art, and experimental cinema, like it is not a movie I would recommend blindly. Like,
yeah. No.
Wait, do the cherry blossoms look real? That's all I need to know.
Cherry blossoms look about as real as they do in this movie, to be fair. And I think it's intentional in that case.
There you go. That's funny. Andrew with a $5 dono. Thank you so much, Andrew. Has anyone seen Mars Express? It's a French animated movie, basically Blade Runner, and it's incredible. My favorite movie from last year. I have not. It's been on my list though because I've heard it described as French Blade Runner, French animated Blade Runner, and I'm like, okay, that sounds kind of sick. So I've heard very good things. Mars Express. Wow. It's currently on VOD. It's $4. Looks very cool. Yeah,
it does.
That's all. It's a French animated cyberpunk movie. Yeah. Someday I'll watch it.
For the shout out.
Yeah, hell yeah. And then King and Commoner with a $5 dono. Thank you so much, King and Commoner. Once again, Marvel has made a movie that would be better served by Michael Pena summarizing it.
I mean, that's a lot of movies.
Yeah, those were good goofs.
Why was he not in Ant-Man 3? Like, that is the biggest, like, I do not understand. I do not comprehend. Like, Quantum Mania, maybe it wouldn't have made $100 million more. Maybe it would have made $500 million more. But, like, just put Pena in there, please. Yeah.
Like, they spent all their money on making that one guy's head. That guy's head, too big. I'm going to say, as much as I love a big head, I think MODOK's head ended up getting too big.
Oh, do you think they reallocated funds from like Brave New World?
Michael Pena budget went to MODOK.
The leader head just gets smaller and MODOK's head gets bigger.
MODOK was perfect in Quantumania. I will die on that hill. MODOK was the most ridiculous thing in the world, and I loved every second of it.
I like when he was dying and he said he's an Avenger now. It's like, well, not really.
I quite like the Patton Oswalt. Like I honestly, I think like they should have just had the Patton Oswalt MODOK, like that little kind of like robot chicken-esque action figure with the rest of the movie. Like that would have been
that would have worked too. That would have worked.
That's why Darren liked the People's Joker.
We like what we like.
Yeah.
Wasup84 with a $2 dono. Thank you so much. What is this? Some kind of a secret war? I keep waiting for someone to say those words together. Give me a Doom. Give me a secret war. A Doomsday.
I'm just so tired of all these Star Wars.
Everything's stupid. Fuegan, been in the tip jar for 14 months. Thank you so much, Fuegan. Blenda, been in the tip jar for 4 months. Thank you so much, Blenda. Cedar George with a $5 dono. Hey, Darren, recently started listening to the 250. Love your insights on both this show and that one. Keep up the fantastic work. I feel like we don't mention it every episode, but Darren, you have a separate podcast called the 250.
I do. My good friend Andrew Quinn. Very, very proud of it. And Jack's been on, and I do actually have to get you both on if you're game and willing at some point in the future.
We only want to talk about a movie with someone with big heads. Own heads, maybe?
I mean, one of the big problems is that big heads and the right amount of tits. That's been the big negotiating rider. I feel like I've been able to satisfy one of you, but not both of you simultaneously. It either has too many tits or the head is too small. Like it's never both.
It's tough to find
too many tits. It's just a weird amount of tits.
Okay. Yeah. well, now I can just go back to the drawing board.
Yeah. That is great. Double Finger with a €5 dono. Thank you so much, Double Finger. The best part of Thor 2: The Dark World was the little gag of Thor hanging his hammer on a coat hook. I do like those little moments. I like those little goof moments.
Yeah.
They're very personable. Also, that must be a very worthy coat hanger.
The thing I actually like, Thor: The Dark World, not a good movie. The one thing I actually like about that movie is that it retroactively makes the Avengers make sense. The Avengers is a much better movie, to be clear. I'm not doing some sort of stupid revisionist The Dark World is better than the Avengers take here. But the thing I really do love about The Dark World is that it has Thor drag Loki in front of Odin. And it basically has Odin ask, why the fuck were you doing what you did in Avengers, Loki? And it's didn't really come up that much in Avengers. And Loki basically says, oh, I was just doing what you did, which is just a really good bit of characterization for the characters and their relationship to one another. The rest of the movie, terrible. But it is one of those small examples, I think, of how you use a shared universe really well, which is you have well, Loki was just doing what his father had done, but to Earth. He was just like taking the way that Odin had expanded the 9 realms and the way in which Asgard generally treated its subjects and doing that to our heroes. And that is like the underpinning logic of the Avengers, which the Avengers doesn't really bring up because it's not a Thor story. And it's like, that for me was like the perfect example of just a small little detail that makes the shared universe make sense and makes the character arcs within that shared universe make sense. Wish the rest of the movie were any good. That's you know.
Thor: The Dark World is where we get the bulk of Thor and Loki hang time, which is good. I think like The Dark World obviously has a lot of nitpicky and some structural problems, but the bulk of the movie is two brothers hanging out, which is turned into a whole third movie, which is the thing we all enjoy, which is Thor and Loki hanging out. I think Dark World gets a bad rap for very good reasons, but it's not. I don't think it's as bad as people remember it being.
I think it's one of the like very early examples of the MCU having difficulty with villains. Like I think it like I know that like we tend to assume it was a problem with the MCU all along, but like Jeff Bridges in Iron Man is fairly okay. Like he does what
Hugo Weaving in Captain America
is like just perfect casting for that role. Like Loki is one of the central characters of the MCU. It's around the Dark World that you start running into the problem of, well, actually, we are so now in love with these characters and the banter and the way they hang out with one another that the villain becomes a second thought. Where like Malekith is played by Christopher Eccleston, like one of like the great actors of his generation, and it's like he is the trivia question for the Marvel villain you cannot name. Like,
wait, I thought it was Ben Mendelsohn. Who did Ben Mendelsohn play?
Talos, who is the shapeshifter in Captain Marvel and Secret Invasion, and he's not a villain. Yeah. And also the post-credit scene of Spider-Man Far From Home.
Sure.
Obviously, they all made
where Nick Fury said others are coming. Some dudes are coming. Dudes are on their way. Spider-Man, watch out.
Some dudes are coming. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, he was green. He would shapeshift. Yeah. Okay, I remember him now.
I love the idea of the ending of Iron Man being like Nick Fury walking out of the shadow saying, "Hey, I want to talk to you about something important," and then it just cuts to black.
What's your Wi-Fi password? We don't need no badges with a $5 dono. Thank you so much. We don't need no badges. I saw The Brutalist in theater this weekend, partly inspired by Jack's praise of the intermission. P-break equals best picture. Thoughts on the Oscar race, fellas?
It's a Nora, isn't it?
It feels like a Nora now because it felt like it was an Amelia Perez lock before. This is why you don't commit to the post credit scene. When you commit to the post credit scene, one prior snafu can knock down the whole Jenga tower. Nora has been the thing winning all of the like guild awards recently, Producers Guild,
GGA.
Yeah. It does feel like it's going to be one of those Oscars where a bunch of movies win 1 or 2 awards. I imagine stuff like The Brutalist and Conclave, even A Complete Unknown will walk away with something. But it does feel like a Nora will win Best Picture.
Yeah, I think that's This is it's gonna be pretty evenly spread.
Yeah, I don't think this is gonna be one of those runaways. Something won 15 awards.
Agreed.
Sussy Guru with a €5 dono. Thank you so much, Sussy Guru. Worst real name for a superhero: Black Bolt's Blackagar Boltagon.
Not even trying. Like it's like,
that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad.
You know what? To be fair, that's probably not his real name, but he had to whisper it because he's not allowed to speak, or else he fucking blows up heads. So his name was probably like Benedict Cumberbatch, but they were like Blackagar Blockagon. Okay.
It does really sound like it's like I had to invent that while I was undercover. It's like somebody asked my name really quickly, and I had to come up with it on the spot.
I'm really bad at making up lies on the spot, guys. I should not have this job.
Fun fact. In the movie we talked about today, Captain America: Brave New World, the character of Dennis Duggan, who is Sam's friend in the Special Forces who gets the information about the pills, he plays a superhero, and his superhero name is D-Man.
Why? Because he's got a big donk? What's his deal?
Because it's Dennis Duggan.
Oh. Everyone, why is a Daredevil called M-Man? Why is a Spider-Man called P-Man? They all got that thing. What?
There's a real, like, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel here, kind of like superhero naming convention thing going on.
I like it. What? You know what?
And if Eric could find a picture of him, he does look like shitty Daredevil. Like, there we go.
Oh, he does look like shitty. Is he related to Dum Dum Duggan?
I don't believe so. Although who knows?
That's Dum Dum Dugan.
Yeah.
All right, you just said the same thing, but you just emphasized one of the vowels differently. That's the same name. That's the same name. Also, it's really rude to call him Dum Dum. That's like a Charles Xavier name. Like this guy's not getting good grades. Let's call him Dum Dum.
But yeah, so there is D-Man.
Ooh. He kind of looks like shitty Wolverine there. He looks like a couple shitty characters.
Let's just say theming and naming, not Dennis Duggan's strengths as a superhero. It's also superheroing, not Dennis Duggan's strength as a superhero.
Seems like it, yeah. Paul with a $2 dono. Thank you so much, Paul. Is Sonic 3 a superhero movie? If Sonic 3 was a superhero movie, Sonic 3 would be
there you go.
my favorite superhero movie of last year. I have not seen The People's Joker yet, so.
Oh, by the way, I'm going through kind of my catalog of superhero names. You know, like an actual superhero name that's really dumb. Vindicator. Too many syllables. Vindicator.
Also, if it's too close to like a Dashboard Confessional song, you can't have your superhero name do that.
I was thinking, was that the villain from Spawn? But that's Violator. That's
Violator.
The John Leguizamo.
Oh yeah.
Poop
Great.
his pants clown character. Yeah.
Yes.
He's great.
Vindicator is like Alpha Force, Alpha Strike, the Canadian Avengers.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
the Canadian one, isn't he?
Yes.
It's a very aggressive name for a Canadian superhero, not to indulge in stereotypes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I still think my favorite X-Men is Chode. It's CH''OD. He's a big green dude from space, and his name's Chode. CH''OD. His name's just Chode. I had that action figure. I've never seen this man in motion. I've never seen him in a comic. I had that action figure.
Well, he's one of the Star Jammers, isn't he?
He's absolutely one of the Star Jammers.
There we go. Okay. So
yeah, that's isn't that like Papa Summers?
That's
deadbeat dad. Papa Summers was like, I don't want to raise these shitty kids. I'm going to go to space.
I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna go get some cigarettes and leave the planet.
With my new son, Chode.
And doesn't he like strap like a parachute to them and throw them out of a plane at the same time as well? Like the Summers like family trauma is absolutely incredible. Also, your brother was Gambit for a little while until Chris Claremont came to his senses.
Gambit. I was gonna say his line from Darren or from Deadpool Wolverine. I already forgot what the thing was. I was like, I'm gonna make a man out of you, and I was like, no, that's Mulan.
I'm gonna make a name for myself. I believe. I don't know. I can do like I don't know if even like I know it is Channing Tatum. I don't know I can do the accent and be culturally sensitive.
I'm gonna make a man out of you. I like that. Yeah, I know we're going to get a whole new world.
The playing cards ain't gonna be the only thing exploding tonight, if you know what I mean.
Oh, I just want to be king.
Oh, that's good stuff. And then Stick in the Garden with a €5 dodo. Thank you so much. I don't like how he looks there. I don't like how he looks at me. Get him out of there.
Are you afraid he's going to make a man out of you tonight?
No. And then Stick in the Garden with a €5 dono. Thank you so much. Shout out to Darren working a full day at a normal gig and still having a brain to be hilarious with us sickos while I am sleepily listening along. Truly one of the heroes of, and you know why? Because you also declined to do the Cajun accent. So that means that you're really looking out for our large contingent of Cajun listeners, like Fungus Finder.
The secret is that these two do the heavy lifting.
That's true.
That is absolutely true.
Let's talk about other stuff we've been watching, stuff we've been seeing in theaters. You guys both saw. You did not both see Love Hurts. Never mind. I tried to find something you both saw. I feel like Love Hurts and Heart Eyes are movies that I keep conflating with each other, just because their names are just two words next to each other, and I haven't seen either of them. So what's going on?
Genre romance movies. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, Love Hurts is a romantic action movie.
Okay.
And I'm going to put movie in quotes because it is less of a movie and more of two stunt teams and a casting director in a trench coat pretending to be a movie. Because the plot, the story, the framing for the movie is so paper thin that. But you know what? This is a movie where. Had I been like 12 years old and this came on a Saturday afternoon, it probably would have been my favorite movie growing up because it is just a silly little action movie featuring, hold on, where are all of my notes?
Kayuki?
Oh, I have no idea how to pronounce his name, and I'm not.
Yeah, from Everything Everywhere All at Once, played obviously Short Round in
The Goonies, and
Jones.
And like he was assistant director, Ki Kwan, sorry, and he was assistant director for like One Car Way and stuff like that, wasn't he? There's like he had like the most incredible
some
career.
like legit artists.
Yeah.
No, and of course, like found this like secondary career in Hollywood as a stunt director and as a stunt choreographer, and you can see it here in Love Hurts. It's a fine movie. It's a lowercase g good movie. It's what I will say.
It's one of those action movies that comes out in February that probably ends up hitting VOD 2 weeks later.
Yes. We do get a little bit of a Goonies reunion. Sean Astin plays a very small part in it, which is fun. And it's this is one of those where I kind of regret paying theater prices for it. But if you see this on a streaming service, this will fill an hour and a half and you'll have a good time. That's all. That's it.
So it's companion film Hard Eyes. I keep getting into so Hard Eyes is like a serial killer on a Tinder date, right? Okay.
Okay. Hard Eyes is again it's co-written by Christopher Langdon, who's the guy who obviously did like Happy Death Day to You, and Freaky, and We Got a Ghost, which is not part of the trend, so just forget I said that one. But basically this trend of like mashing up horror movies with other genres, where you do like Groundhog Day, but it's a horror movie, Freaky Friday, but it's a horror movie, and here you're doing a romantic comedy, but it's a horror movie. And like I wanted to love this because the premise of this is delightful. It's the idea of like, what if it's a meet cute, but also there's a serial killer involved. But the problem that I had with it was that it doesn't really commit to the idea of the mashup. Instead of being a horror movie and a romantic comedy, it is a romantic comedy for 20 minutes, a slasher movie for an hour, and a romantic comedy for 20 minutes. It very neatly segregates the sections of its narrative. So, it runs through the cliches of the romantic comedy, where it introduces like the sassy best friend, for example, or the borderline sociopathic boss character. But then it pivots sharply into being like a love letter to, for example, Terminator, or a love letter to, John Carpenter's abandoned pitch for Halloween 4, which are delightful, like deep cuts in terms of slasher cinema, but are also like not romance movies, and also like don't feel like they fit with romance movies, where it's like, you can't promise me Jason Voorhees versus Miranda Priestley and not deliver on that. You can't like give me the sassy, sociopathic, like manipulative, awful boss character and then have her go away while the slashing happens and come back at the end for a little cameo. If you're gonna do a slasher movie, horror, romantic comedy, like commit to it and stick to it. And I think that like it is very charming. Mason Gooding Jr. in particular is very, very charming as the romantic lead. You can tell that they didn't necessarily have a big budget and are trying to stretch it in a way that is honestly really, really charming. And the concept itself goes very, very far. But like, there are points where it feels like it's not funny when it should be funny, and it's too serious when it should be goofy. Like, so this is a movie that it's spoofing the conventions of the slasher movie. It feels like it's doing very similar to what's it called, In a Violent Nature last year, which took the idea of like, well, we all know the Jason Voorhees character. It's the guy who wanders around with a machete and slabs people. We don't need more than that. And the movie kind of plays with that idea. And there's a wonderful moment at the climax where it like plays with that idea to its logical conclusion of like when they, reveal who the killer is. And there's a wonderful twist at a moment where the entire audience kind of laughs because it's such a great payoff to, it doesn't matter who the killer is in these movies. But then the movie circles back around to, but actually, yes, we will give you a lot of lore and backstory and explanation and motivation for this character. It's like, you just did the clever thing that allowed you to avoid doing that. Why are you sucking yourself back into that in the third act when you should be doing the romantic comedy stuff? I found myself like a little bit distanced from it, which is a shame, because as I said, it's a game cast. There's some nice kills in it, and it does like, it has a nice energy, which is, and as you said, your movie was, I think, like an hour and a half. This is like 80 minutes. It breezes by relatively quickly and unobjectionably, but like, I just came to it with the expectations of, this is co-written by the guy who did Freaky and who did, Happy Death Day. I'm expecting it to be as good as those mashups, and it is, unfortunately for me, not.
It's directed by Josh Rubin, who I'm a big fan of. His previous movie was Werewolves Within, which I still think is legitimately might be my favorite video game adaptation. It's like the adaptation of the
Sam
Ubisoft
Anderson one, is it?
Yeah, or Sam Richardson.
Sorry.
Yeah. That movie's great. He also did a movie called Scare Me, prior to that. It was him and Aya Cash. It's almost like a two-hander of like two people in a cabin. That's really good. So
Josh Rubin also, if anyone like me is a super improv comedy nerd, is a regular on Dropout. Does a lot of their shows on Dropout, including the Make Some Noise series, which is improv heavy game show basically. And
I think he got his start on College Humor. He was like a College Humor employee. So yeah. Very cool.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll have to check that one out. Speaking of movies that feel like different movies that it just oscillates genres at certain points. Darren, you and I both saw The Gorge.
Yes.
It's weird. Two of the things on my list are The Gorge and The Pit. Both of them are very different.
I know. I saw that myself. I was like, Marty has prepared a pivot point here. He's going to go from The Gorge to The Pit. The Gorge is the new Scott Derrickson movie. I'm very, very fond of Scott Derrickson. Even if I don't love his movies, I like that he gets to keep making them. And every once in a while, he makes a movie that like I do really like and do really enjoy. And then he occasionally makes something like Deliver Us from Evil. But like The Gorge is an interesting concept of a movie where it is about these two characters, you saw them down the screenshot there, Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy, who are opposite side guardians of the eponymous Gorge. They are soldiers of fortune or military veterans who are drafted in to stand on watchtowers overlooking this gorge, which is this big drop in the earth from which strange creatures seem to emerge periodically. They're given instructions. They're not told what happened here. They're not told what it is. They believe that they are working for, he believes he is working for the Western nations. She believes she is working for the Eastern Bloc, but they don't have any real idea of like who put them here, what happened here, or what they're doing here, outside of working as maintenance people, making sure that the mines at the edge of the gorge are maintained, the guns at the edge of the gorge are fully loaded, and that if there is an emergency, they call home. And the two of them naturally strike up this relationship across the literal divide between them. And I have to say, I really liked the opening like hour of this movie, where
I recommended it to a couple friends where I'm like, this is like a really cute rom-com for a little bit with like a really nice meet cute of like characters needing to communicate across the gorge and kind of
they do the Love Actually thing, where they hold up like signs, like it works rather well as a metaphor. It's this idea of like you don't really know other people and how you communicate to other people across a seemingly impossible chasm that is unresolvable. It is arguably a better political metaphor than anything in Captain America: Brave New World.
This movie has fewer Red Hulks, I will say.
I will say, yes.
Wanting a Red Hulk, it has zero.
Its budget was somewhere around, I believe, like 25% of a Red Hulk. But like, I found myself really charmed by it. And then the problem is they inevitably have to go into the gorge. And when they go into they gotta gorge out. And when they go into the gorge, it reminds me of like The Mist, the classic, like the Frank Darabont adaptation of the Stephen King novel. And I love that movie so much. The Gorge is like, what if The Mist, but also we explained everything in excruciating detail. There is a moment in The Gorge where the characters wander into a classroom. They find a projector. They press play on the projector, and the projector gives them a big info dump about what's happening on the gorge. Then, literally 30 seconds later, they walk a little bit further to the left and find a computer and press enter on the computer, and the computer gives them a whole bunch of information that was omitted from the like projector that they just watched. And it is an incredibly like lore-pilled, mythology-heavy like story that doesn't need to be. It is much more interesting when at the start of the movie it's like, Miles Teller asks the guy he's replacing, "What is this?" And the guy he's replaced like, "I don't know."
He's like, I've been here a year. We have year-long shifts, and I don't know. But the last guy told me it might be the gates of hell. And I'm like, well, that's cool. That sounds neat. You don't need to explain any more to me.
Yeah, and then the movie does, unfortunately. And like it's a shame. Like I think it is fine. I think it averages out to about okay. But it's like I was much more interested in like the weird, meet cute soldiers on the watchtower at the edge of like hell than I was in the let's go find a projector that will explain the plot to us segment of the movie. And like there is a moment towards the climax of this movie as well where I did put my head in my hands, which was where they play like from the moment you see the two watchtowers like staring over the gorge, you're like, this is an Apple production. They can afford the music rights to All Along the Watchtower.
Oh, no.
The real question is, A, do they have the restraint not to do it? And B, how long does it take them to do it when they realize that they don't? Yeah. And like, there's a moment at the climax where like you start to hear a guitar playing, and I put my head in my hands, and I was like, "You guys were so close.
There must be some kind of
way out of here." It's like the Joker to the thief.
During the meet cute segment, they go on these. They have these like, because they're like whatever. I don't know how long the gorge is, like a quarter mile or whatever. They have these like dates.
You weren't paying attention to the projector. We'll have to take you down and play the projector again for you, Marty.
No, I was waiting for them to find the third room that included a subscription to Apple TV Plus and a copy of the movie The Gorge from 2025 that they could watch to get all the info needed. But no, they go on these. They have these like little dates where they're like a quarter mile apart, but they're like doing something together. And the two things they do are they play drums, which is what Miles Teller, the movie he's probably best known for, is Whiplash. And then they play chess, which is The Queen's Gambit, which is what Anya Taylor-Joy might be best known for. And I'm like, I don't know if you did this on purpose, but I like what's going on here. Yeah, I thought it was a little clever.
That's a bad idea. I don't like that.
Why? You don't want to learn how to play drums? You don't want to go on a drum date?
I don't think it's a good idea to reference the fact that these are actors who have acted in other famous movies during the movie you're trying to get into. Unless it's a comedy bit purposefully designed to take you out of the narrative, I think that is a bad idea.
I feel like this is a movie about two people who fall in love while guarding what they believe to be the gates of hell. I feel like you could extend the boundaries of reality just a little bit. Like they have like a date night, which is like lovely. Like the sequence where they have the date night is incredibly charming. And I'm like, I am on board with this movie. And then it like immediately the movie's like, no, we got to spend that Apple money, baby. I'm like,
yeah, a lot of gorges there.
Would you say that they gorge themselves?
They might have gorged themselves.
With mythology?
They might have gorged themselves a little too far. Also, just really quickly to bring up The Pit, because this is a thing I keep watching week. This is the new. It's a new show on HBO Max. It feels like it is a legally distinct spiritual successor to ER, to the point where I believe there is some litigation going on where Michael Crichton's family is like, this was originally going to literally be an ER reboot, and something changed along the way where they're like, no, this is about a hospital.
Noah Wiley is still under contract. Yeah.
But Noah Wiley is still the main character. And it still is and it's a lot of the production, the crew of ER is still working on this, but legally distinct ER. It is, but it takes place over the course of a single shift at a hospital emergency room in Pittsburgh. And so it's almost like 24, where it like starts at 7 a.m. The first episode is 7 to 8 a.m. The second episode is 8 to 9 a.m. The third episode is 9 to 10 a.m. It is probably the most realistic depiction of an emergency room I've ever seen. Like, I recommended this to my mom, who was a trauma nurse before she was a school nurse, and she said, yeah, this is way more realistic than anything she's ever seen on TV, almost to the point where like the show is relentless. It's hard to watch more than one episode at a time because there is just no downtime. There's an arc over the course of several episodes where Noah Wiley needs to take a piss and can't, because every time he goes to the bathroom to try to take a piss, someone's like, oh my God, this dude's bleeding out. You gotta get out here. And there's like several episodes where you're like, just let this man pee. Like, even if one person needs to die, it's fine. Just like pick the person we like the least, let them die, and let Noah Wiley pee. I've watched, I think 6 episodes are out now. I've watched all 6. It's weekly. It's great. If you like hospital shows, really fucking good stuff. Pretty gnarly. Like, you need to have a stomach for, like, they use their Red Hulk budgets on cool injuries, which I'm a big fan of. So yeah, I recommend that one. So that's one thing I've been watching. Jack, what do you got? Do you got any? Have you been to be in at all?
Have I been to be? Yes, yeah. So last week I was relatively sick. I had to actually take a couple days where I just could not do any work because I was, a little chest congestion. Talking is, as it turns out, a huge part of our workday. Professionally shouting, I like to call it. And so I just needed to take a couple days off. Rewatched a little Big Trouble Little China. It's always a great watch. Always a great watch. But one day in particular, last week Friday, kids went to their grandma's. I got the night alone. I don't want to think about what I'm going to watch, so I go to Tubi and just see what's playing, baby. And you know what Tubi's got on the front page, as if calling to me specifically? Oh, is it a light-hearted comedy? Is it a story about a nun who's secretly a lesbian and they're finding romance in the Covenant? Oh, it's both. It's Sister Act. By the way, I need to find stills from this. There is a scene in Sister Act in which the mousy, tiny little nun and Whoopi Goldberg share a scene in Whoopi's convent bedroom that is straight out of I'm actually a lesbian movie. To the point in which, like, if you just put some different music behind it, it is straight, like, they have chemistry. It is off the charts. It's beautiful.
Where do you stand on Sister Act v Sister Act 2 Back in the Habit?
Great companion pieces. I think they are both wonderful. Sister Act 2 Back in the Habit gets slightly more points as it features Miss Lauryn Hill. But both fantastic movies. I love them both dearly.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Sister Act. You like Sister Act, Darren? What is happening with you? It seems like you're paying attention and then you keep flashing away. This is magical.
Oh, sorry.
What?
Camera acting up. Yeah, no, I don't have a take on Sister Act. It's been years. I have not watched it since I was a weean. The situation with Sister Act. I do love the title "Back in the Habit," though. Like, it gets points. Really, it's like such a great sequel title. Like, it's such a perfect, like.
Yeah. No, and I grew up in a relatively religious household, but this was one of the few movies where it's like my mom loved, so we always had a copy of Sister Act and Sister Act 2 because it's a fun little movie. Little Harvey Keitel in there in that first one. That's great.
I didn't even know he was in the first movie.
Yeah, he's the
bad lieutenant himself.
He's the Mr. Bad Lieutenant is the ex is who she is hiding from in Sister Act.
Is that the Thursday movie for the Phoenix Tier movie watch?
No, Sister Act is not the movie. For our regular weekly, monthly Phoenix Tier movie night, usually I'll put up a poll to have the Phoenix Tier patrons vote on what movie we're going to watch. This month, I say F it. I'm choosing the movie. Only me and Eric know what the movie is because I feel like being a little stinker.
You were just inspired because democracy doesn't exist in America anymore. And so you're like, democracy shouldn't exist for Phoenix Tier movie night.
It's theming. No, there's just something that I really want to watch. It's been a while since I've seen it, and we're going to watch it. I don't think anyone else is going to like it.
I'm very excited.
I do love it's a surprise that nobody's going to like. Like, I love you'll love it if you give it a chance. Like, no.
No, you might not like it. It might not be a good movie. I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen it. I'm just excited to watch it again.
The way that you describe it, it sounds like you are not sure that it's a good movie. Like, maybe my memory plays tricks on me. Like, is it a movie where you could be surprised watching it yourself?
It is a movie in which I remember fondly. It is a movie that I've seen multiple times.
Okay.
But it's been a while since I've seen it. I'm not going to put a number on that while because I don't want to narrow it down too much.
You think is it Heavyweights? Ben Stiller's Heavyweights?
It could be anything.
He didn't say no to Heavyweights.
I didn't say no.
He seemed to quickly move the Heavyweights DVD out of sight.
Yeah. Oh, God, get it out of frame. He knows.
Oh, look what's there that I moved now that I moved it out of frame. It's the Adventurers Nye plushies for sale now.
Amazing.
Amazing. So I watched Sister Act. I was just delighted. It's still such a wonderful. The Pope comes. They clean up the neighborhood. The Pope comes. They sing God versions of classic R&B tunes. It's wonderful. And then I made the biggest mistake. Nothing you can say could take me away from my God.
Oh, I see. Like a little Weird Al, a Catholic Weird Al Yankovic.
That's exactly what it was. Yeah. Catholic Weird Al. Then I made a terrible mistake and wanted to roll that into another movie. Instead of watching Sister Act 2 Back in the Habit, I watched The Blues Brothers, the original Blues Brothers, which I did not care for. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's a good.
It before?
I remember seeing it before, though some of the time I was watching the movie and definitely didn't remember certain sequences. I think the Blues Brothers is one of those movies that we all catch little bits and pieces of on cable, and in 15-minute chunks is enjoyable. But watching it start to back, I think it's a bad movie. That's my.
So you'd
hot
almost
take.
suggest that they work maybe if they were in some sort of like sketch format would be. Like,
Oh,
the ideal
sure, yeah,
format
like
for
if it was like a
Blues
smaller sketch format,
Yeah,
and like
as
then
part of like a
parsed
show
out.
with larger number of maybe a musical guest in
Yes.
there as well to balance it out. Yeah.
Yeah, like, and then we get like just a little bit once a week or something.
Yeah, and like Dan Aykroyd and like Jim Belushi could like play other characters as well in that format. And I mean,
great.
if only that exists, like that
That would be
that's the
great.
fix. I think. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. I think that's a really great idea. But
Guys,
Friends
you're
of-
thinking of In Living Color. That was already a show.
Yeah,
that was a great. That was a great.
Great.
That was a
You're
great.
thinking of House of Buggin'. Shout out to John Leguizamo. I'm a big Saturday Night Live fan and a big fan of most of the Saturday Night Live spin-off movies.
Yeah.
You know, I like a Conehead. I like Ladies Man.
Night of the Roxbury is
Night of
for
the
you.
Roxbury.
It's
Listen,
Pat. Yeah.
Superstar. Well, it's Pat's a little. I try not to touch that one. I like the ones that are just a step removed too. Austin Powers, one of the greatest trilogies of all time. Get fucked, Francis Ford Coppola. Just like a truly
Wow.
great movie. Yeah, I think I mentioned at the top of the show, but I watched the SNL 50th special, which I thought was delightful. It was very navel-gazy and very look at what we've done. But if you've been doing a show for 50 fucking years, you can kind of do that.
Right.
Like, you kind of get to take a victory lap. And I thought the victory lap was, I thought it was really entertaining. I liked seeing all the olds come back. Some of the emotional moments really got me. Yeah, the musical numbers were nice. Paul Simon just keeps shrinking. He's such a small man. I saw someone
Paul
because
Seisman.
you're thinking of Sizemore. He's Paul Sizeless.
Sizeless, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because he did his opening musical number with Sabrina Carpenter, who's
Oh, so they're about the same height.
The thing is, she's still a little bit taller, and I saw someone post it and said like God keeps throwing obstacles at Paul Simon, but he refuses to be taller than any human being he's standing next to.
It's like the anti-reacher.
Exactly. So yeah, I thought that was pretty nice.
Nah,
I will
nice.
say. Darren, what else? What else? I want to hear about this monkey, Darren. I'm looking forward to the monkey, even though I've heard some mixed things about the chimp.
I mean, look, last year I thought that like Long Legs, which is the Osgood Perkins movie starring Nicolas Cage, Michael Monroe, was one of my favorite movies of last year.
Yeah.
I think like it's incredible that like Perkins is working so prolifically. He has another movie coming out in October. And like the monkey, it is insane. And the monkey does kind of feel a little bit like just throw ideas at the wall. It's like that restaurant Spaghetti City or whatever it is. But like it is a movie that feels very much thrown together incredibly quickly. It's a movie that like doesn't necessarily have a coherent like plot or narrative or story. The premise of the movie is self-explanatory. It's about a monkey, but it's about like an evil monkey toy that when wound up causes random death to happen to somebody completely chosen at random arbitrarily with no, intent or purpose behind it. You wind up the toy and someone dies in an incredibly gruesome Rube Goldberg-esque way. We talked about Final Destination, I think 2 weeks ago. That is very obviously kind of a touchstone for this in that like, the opening sequence has a rat gnawing through a rope, which causes something to fall, which knocks a gun, which fires the gun. And, it is very much like the opening sequence of Back to the Future, but with more blood and guts in it. And like, that's a pretty solid template for a movie. But I think like, I like this a lot, even if I didn't like it as much as I like Long Legs. And the reason why I liked it is that even though it is, as we mentioned, that is Tatiana Maslany, it is very much
that's Girl Hulk.
Please, Woman Hulk.
Sorry,
Woman Hulk. But even though it is this very loosely structured, like Rube Goldberg machine delivery mechanism for gory kills, it is like weirdly personal and weirdly tied together in like Osgood Perkins' very peculiar family history. And that like Perkins, for those who don't know, he is the son of Anthony Perkins, who played Norman Bates in Psycho. This movie is like populated with motels, hotels, and Costco tells, for some strange reason as well. But obviously Perkins was a deeply closeted man. He was gay in Hollywood at a time where it was not socially acceptable to be gay, so he had to pretend to be straight. And Perkins has talked about how like concealing that within the family was a massive trauma. And a large part of what Longlegs is about the idea of your mother keeping this secret from you to protect you, and how that actually scars and turns you into like something that you don't recognize, or something that she doesn't recognize, and that it damages the relationship between you. And Osgood Perkins has been very candid. That is exactly what the relationship was between us in keeping this secret. And The Monkey is not a subtle movie. It's very much a subtext is for cowards movie, where
Yes.
it is the story of Hal and Bill, who are two twins, and they discover this monkey in the back of their father's closet. Their father, who disappeared from their lives. And when the monkey comes back, Hal is like, I'm going to check the closet. And when it's not in the closet, he says, are there any other closets I can check to find it in there? In case you don't get the subtext of what this movie is about. It is also, in its opening narration, a metaphor for the idea of passing down trauma from one generation to another. The opening sequence of this as Hal's father, who's played by Adam Scott, trying to return the monkey to the store from whence he purchased it and being unable to do so. And Hal talking about how he doesn't know if every father passes down some sort of monstrous, unspeakable curse to their kids, but ours did. And in case you want to know more about Perkins' family, his mother, Barry Berenson, I think her name is, was a model, photographer, and actress. She passed away on 9/11. She was on the first plane to hit the Twin Towers.
Oh, wow, I didn't know
and
that.
that is what you will by the end of this movie, because like this movie is also like haunted by that trauma, where, you know, the father, played by Adam Scott, is an airline pilot. The mother, played by Tatiana Maslany, talks about how she wanted to be a stewardess. There is a brick joke involving skydiving. The climax of the movie involves a plane. A bride in bridal clothes crashes through a ceiling at one point. This is very much a movie that is like Osgood Perkins taking the loosest premise of a Stephen King short story about a cursed monkey doll that causes random death to happen, and using it to tell a story about his own family and how messed up it felt being a kid and having all of this unexplained insanity happening around him. And it ends up being, for me at least, surprisingly charming, where this is not a movie that is held together by story or narrative. The plot makes no sense whatsoever. There are several developments that do not conform in any way to the rules of the universe as they are established, but the movie is so crystal clear in like what it is actually about. And like this is the thing when we get back to like, not to bring the discussion full circle back to like Captain America Brave New World, but like one of the things with me with Brave New World is I come out of that and I go, what is that movie about? And I don't mean in a plot sense, like it's Captain America fights a Red Hulk. It's like, no, but what is it about? And it's like, I can tell you everything that happens in that movie and I cannot tell you what it's about. Whereas The Monkey, I'm not sure I could tell you everything that happens in the movie, and I saw it like last night, but I can tell you what it is about, which is it's about this idea of like, do we pass down things to our children that scar them in ways that we cannot anticipate or expect? And that is such a solid thematic through line that runs over the course of the movie that everything else is kind of almost incidental. And it just becomes, as I mentioned from the outset, a delivery mechanism for like goofy, gory, gruesome kills. And it's like, is this movie as good as Longlegs? I don't think so. Is this as good as like The Black Coat's Daughter? Maybe, I don't know. But I enjoyed it and I had a good time with it. And it's exactly like everything you want for a late February horror release. I had a really good time with this movie.
The fact that a random actor from Quigley is now making prestige horror movies is just phenomenal.
Like,
really
what was it? Legally Blonde? That was his big break on screen, was like playing.
No, it was starring opposite Gary Busey in the Talking Dog movie Quigley.
There, okay, okay. I'm gonna hand in my movie critic badge.
Was Gary Busey the voice of the dog?
Gary Busey died, and his soul got put into the dog to try to make wrong things right again.
This is
not like a Kevin Spacey 9 Lives situation, but like less problematic somehow. Who would have thought Gary Busey's in the less problematic version of that movie?
Yeah, no, this is not. You don't have to turn in your movie critic card. This is a bad movie enjoyer card. It gets the show.
Entirely different card. Did you know Okay, so I did not do a full deep dive into this, but it has been going around that the monkey in the original story has symbols.
Yes.
It is one of those monkeys with symbols, whereas the monkey in the movie has a drum set.
Yeah.
And supposedly is it because Disney and Pixar wrote the idea of a monkey with drums for Toy Story or monkey with symbols?
Toy Story 3.
Toy Story 3. How can you copyright that? Shit's been around for like hundreds of years.
Nobody had copyrighted it beforehand. Nobody had thought to copyright it beforehand.
It's just a monkey with symbols. You can't. That's just art.
Nobody copyrighted it. Like, and nobody thought like it's very like the deal with Disney. They tried to copyright the Day of the Dead. Like without again, no moral judgment. This is just how capitalism works. Like they're doing what they're doing. Those legal staffers are quote just following orders. But there is like a legal department in Disney, which is like, can you protect the brand? It's like we mentioned these concepts in the movie. You need to check if any other right holder has the right to them already, and if they don't, snatch them up, baby. Yeah, and Perkins has talked about how the drum came about because he tried to do the symbols, but he was told, no, you're not. The Disney owned the right to that. And he's like, oh, you mean from like the 1930s? Like, no, 2010, Toy Story 3. That's when they copyrighted. And it is interesting because apparently Perkins himself is a drummer.
Oh.
Apparently, according to his brother Elvis, he would play drums when the two of them were jamming together, and it would help him get out of his own head. So,
you know where he'd have a good time? One half of the Gorge. Don't put him opposite Jack, though. Jack's not going to let him drum or play chess. Can't do something that they're having fun with. I don't know why I'm mad at you for that. I didn't care. We disagreed on Captain America, and I did not care. Yeah. But I got mad that you didn't like the drum and the chess thing as much as I did.
I feel like
you haven't seen the drum and chess thing either.
I think I have a valid criticism there. Like I think a lot of my Captain America optimism.
Are you raving about a movie where Harrison Ford plays the president again? Like. Right, you can't go. It's bad when they reference things the actor has done before and be like, but like Harrison Ford president.
But if all of a sudden if Harrison Ford all of a sudden went to another character and was just like, yeah, someone killed my wife.
It was a one-armed man.
He does kind of do that to the Secret Service agent during the exposition dump. To be fair.
Anthony Mackie's moving moment is where he talks about losing a rap battle in Detroit.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. If someone would have offered Anthony Mackie some spaghetti, then yes, I would make the same. Yes, I would make the same criticism.
Really quick about spaghetti. What was that restaurant you created, Darren? Like Johnny's.
It was a reference to the movie.
Because both Jack and I were like, "What, is that a restaurant? We don't know."
Junction or something? I don't know. Anyway, it was a reference in the movie. The character says it's like that restaurant, Spaghetti Junction. Anyway, so I assumed it was an American. I assumed I was dropping some hot American knowledge I picked up from the hot American movie I watched last night. I was trying to be hip and cool. You guys caught me, and I'm sorry. I'm embarrassed.
Oh no, we gotcha.
Yeah.
Speaking of the monkey movies,
cool.
Speaking of monkey, listen, you're gonna be cool because you're the only one of us who's seen Better Men. Speaking of the monkey movies, talk about the other monkey movie that we had on the thumbnail last week, but none of us had seen. So it's kind of a weird choice for a thumbnail, for me to be honest.
I love Better Men. I honestly love Better Men. And I know that's not a surprise. The general buzz on Better Men has been everybody who has seen Better Men, which is a total of 12 people, loved Better Men. But like Better Men is the Robbie Williams biopic that is basically, your standard jukebox musical biopic using the music of Robbie Williams to tell the story of Robbie Williams, except this time Robbie Williams is played by a CGI monkey. And it really worked for me. I mean, the monkey is undoubtedly part of it. There's a wonderful quote from director Michael Gracie where he says, po-faced, there is nothing glamorous about a monkey doing cocaine. And you might laugh at that idea, but there is nothing glamorous about a monkey doing cocaine. It is deeply sad in a way that like seeing characters snort rails is not like you become kind of numb to the rhythms of the music biopic where you see Freddie Mercury snorting whatever or shooting up whatever. It becomes kind of numbing and exhausting. It's just part of the routine. But yeah, seeing like an anthropomorphized chimp do it does kind of like shake you out of your kind of like apathy a little bit. But also like, because I think I mentioned last week, like it does feel like it is a Robbie Williams thing where there is a recurring motif in the movie that is not hammered too hard, luckily enough. Like it is just a subtle thing, but where Williams is like obsessed with his own body. He's obsessed with the idea that he is fat. He's like trying on costumes that are designed to hide his weight. He talks about being afraid of being the little fat kid again, or he's going to die a fat old bastard and all this sort of stuff. And so there is this emphasis in the movie about like Williams being uncomfortable in his own skin. We talked about the Rock DJ video in which he peels off his own skin as an illustration of how uncomfortable he is. So the monkey kind of works in that sense, but it also paradoxically allows Williams to be like a bit more honest, where like the thing about these biopics is that they tend to be kind of like romantic fantasies of these historical or these musical figures, where they're making a Michael Jackson biopic from the Michael Jackson estate, that where, you know, controversially it came out that a large part of the third act of that movie is going to be about how Michael Jackson didn't ever do anything wrong to anybody ever. And the people, or
honestly, it was the children who were at fault.
that is unironically what it came out the third act of the movie was going to be. And like, obviously you have like, if you've seen Bohemian Rhapsody, the key theme of Bohemian Rhapsody is the surviving members of Queen were like, Freddie, don't do drugs and don't cheat on your partner, because we would never do that as the surviving members of Queen. And obviously like the Elton John stuff is like, well, thank God Elton John survived to become the most important living artist of his generation. And so there is something about Williams portraying himself as a literal animal throughout the movie that allows him to get a bit of distance and to actually grapple with the fact that he was terrible and he did terrible things and he was horrible to other people. And like it also has like a really satisfying arc for a movie like this, where Williams throughout the movie is motivated by this impulse that again drives so many of these biopics. You know, recently we had A Complete Unknown. We mentioned Bo Rap, you know, obviously like the Johnny Cash movie Walk the Line, Ray, etc., where it's like, this artist is the most important artist in the history of pop music and they need to be recognized for the greatness that they've done. And so much of this movie is Williams chasing that idea of greatness, where he wants to perform to this like massive audience and he wants to be taken seriously as an artist. And the end arc of the movie is him realizing, actually, no, what I want to do is stand on stage and sing Frank Sinatra in a ballroom with my dad. And that is like the right level of fame for me as an artist. Like, it is, you know, the kind of thing that you shouldn't make a movie about based on the box office results. Like, it is not a marketable approach to be like, Robbie Williams is exactly as famous as he needs to be because no Americans know his name whatsoever. Greenlight that movie turns out to be a bad business strategy, but it is actually like a really sweet narrative arc, which is like, at the end of the movie, he's quite happy to not be a household name in America. Are the investors in the movie happy that he's not a household name in America? Probably not, but I don't really care at this point. I was really charmed by it. I will also say that Michael Gracie, who also directed The Greatest Showman, actually can direct like song and dance numbers. It's one of the better looking musicals that I've seen recently. So yeah, I would wholeheartedly recommend Better Man. I had a really, really, really good time with Better Man.
I feel like you're just taking shots at Wicked right there. Understandably, because Wicked is a deeply ugly movie, and I don't understand why. They built the sets. You did the hard part. You built the sets. Why'd you make them look ugly?
Just light them in the back, light them from the back, baby. Because Oz should look realistic.
Get Osgood Perkins there.
Rounded.
Well, Oz is cutting it up. I think he'd make it. He'd put a monkey in that movie. Yeah. Flying monkey with cymbals. Not with cymbals. You can't. Well, no, that's a Disney.
I meant to say, yeah. That's Disney is Disney is the drums. The Flying Monkey is MGM.
Oh, my mistake. They're all the same company. They're all owned by Walmart.
Well, MGM's now Amazon. Although the Wizard of Oz belongs to Warner Brothers. That's why her slippers aren't red. Fun fact. If you watch any adaptation of The Wizard of Oz, the slippers are not red because the red slippers were an invention for the movie, which is owned by MGM, which I believe was bought by Ted Turner, which means it is owned by Warner Brothers, which is why the only adaptation I think that has gotten away with using the red slippers is the Disney Return to Oz adaptation, and that's because they paid through the frickin' nose for it. But if you watch, say, like
copyright red shoes,
nobody thought to do it until 1939.
What is
Marty.
This movie? Who's this pumpkinhead? What is this movie?
That's Return to Oz. This is I believe it's the only movie directed by Walter Murch, the famous editor and sound editor, the guy who worked with like Francis Ford Coppola, is largely responsible for The Conversation. It's Return to Oz. It's the 1980.
This stars a young. Oh, who's the actress in this?
Fairuza Balk.
Yes, who grew up to be like in. You would know her from The Craft.
Yes, The Craft, and she was also in American History X, wasn't she? She was one of the main actors.
Oh, yes, the crazy girlfriend in American History. You know this actress.
Yes.
Was she in The Waterboy?
She was not. Oh, yes, she was in The Waterboy.
Okay, yeah, I know her from The Waterboy.
She was the girlfriend in The Waterboy. Yes.
Yeah.
An incredibly disturbing film.
Yes, like I don't think again, one of those movies that does not work narratively as a story, but as a special effects reel, it's fantastic.
Oh yes,
like,
beautiful.
Yeah, that's the sequence that Eric has there. I believe they're about to be menaced by a bunch of skaters because it is an 80s movie to its core. But like there are things like again, it is the last point in Hollywood history. Sorry, we're talking about Return to Oz now, and I apologize, listeners. But like, it feels like it came at the last point in American history where you could do a movie that would use similar techniques to the 1939 Wizard of Oz, which is that you would have to do all of these effects in camera using props and stop motion and matte painting and model work, as opposed to using computer generated effects, which you would have even in the 90s. So like, for me, this is like, and it's not a perfect movie. It's not a great movie. It's not even a capital G good movie. It's maybe a good with a U movie, if that's the system we're using now. But
German good. You with an umlaut.
It's got an umlaut, yeah.
Yeah,
But like,
I like that.
It's for me the best like Wizard of Oz sequel because it's the one that feels like actually tangibly and tactile like the 1939 movie. Where like if you look at say Oz the Great and Powerful or even the more recent Wicked, those movies use computer effects, which to me feel uncanny. Oz should feel like, the most expensive children's pageant ever made. And I think like Return to Oz is the last time that you could do that and like expect audiences to buy it. Sorry, this has been my Return to Oz corner. I apologize.
Oh, that was great. Next, please for next week, prep a whiz corner.
Oh, oh no! Yeah, no. I just realized who was the Scarecrow in that movie, and no.
I was trying to tie in the pit and be like, who could have used the whiz corner? Dr. Noah Wiley in the pit.
I love that he's not even like Dr. Carter II. He's just.
I can't remember what his name is, so I just call him Dr. Noah Wiley. He was in Donnie Darko too. Shout out to Donnie Darko, by the way.
He wasn't.
How come we don't talk about Donnie Darko ever?
Because they made S. Darko.
How come we don't talk about both of them? Let's reclaim it.
Richard Kelly went on to make like several movies that were not Donnie Darko.
If I'm gonna be honest, the monkey that you were just talking about, that just sounds like the Button.
It is. It's a good version of the Button. It's like a version of the Button that is like not about like serious like socio-political abstract like moral issues, and instead about the idea that if you had a button, it'd be really fucked up. Like, and it's like that's the right level to pitch that movie. Where like the Button is like, what does this mean for the development of mankind as a species and as a culture and a society? And the monkey's like, that's pretty fucked up. And I'm like, the right angle to take here is that that's pretty fucked up. It's like you've seen the Button. Like the Button has this insane mythology of like, we went to Mars and we found something, and that something judged us as a species. And I'm like, I don't want that from the Button movie. Like, I don't want.
I want people to hit a button and then crazy shit happens. That's what I want from my Button film.
Yeah, like it's a Button movie. Like,
yeah. It's one of those classic Button movies.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about, like it's a very normal thing. Going over a couple more super chats that came in near the end. Pure Pyro over in Ko-Fi. Thank you so much, Pure Pyro. Can you think this is, I believe, speaking to how we talked about genre shifts halfway through a movie. Can you think of other movies that make a completely unexpected 180 degree or shift genres halfway through? Stuff like From Dusk Till Dawn and Sorry to Bother You.
Psycho is the big one.
Psycho's the big, speaking of
Psycho is such a big one that they invented movie going to like support it.
Yeah.
Like, before Psycho, you used to buy a ticket to a movie and you would arrive, and whatever point in the movie you were, you would just like stay, watch the end, and stay until the point where you arrived in the next showing, and then leave because you would like get a whole movie. Psycho was the one where Alfred Hitchcock was like, no, you're at the start of the movie and you're at the end of the movie, and that is how movie going works.
You need to watch the whole movie, my friend.
Yeah. From beginning to end. Yeah.
In order? You. Insane.
What is this? Some Christopher Nolan shit?
A couple classic examples, like Full Metal Jacket, very distinctly switches what it is. As Sunshine, the Danny Boyle movie.
Yes.
And I definitely prefer the first movie it is to the second movie it is. And then I think I brought up around Halloween, but One Cut of the Dead, which is the Japanese horror movie, which I don't want to give too many spoilers, but it
does that several times.
It does it several times where it's what you think the movie is about is not what the movie's about. You think it's about zombos, but it's not about zombos. It's about more than zombos.
I mean, there are like Companion is on like, and there are plenty of like movies that hinge on a twist that changes the nature of the movie. So Abigail, for example, is a movie.
Yeah,
that
horror movies, I guess that's
yeah,
kind of
tend to be like Abigail begins as a kidnapping movie and then becomes something else entirely, or Companion, or like that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
horror movies.
Ariel mentions Barbarian. Yeah, Barbarian was a movie.
Barbarian, yeah, it's a great,
Felt like
and it does that like several times as well. It literally does that with Justin Long, which is incredible. And like even more recently, like you mentioned, The Brutalist, The Interval, and The Brutalist. I think the two halves of The Brutalist are very different movies.
Very, very drastic. Like you come back from halftime of The Brutalist, and it is, oh boy.
I like calling it halftime.
They do a little Kendrick Lamar show in the middle of it, where he just disses like Guy Pearce.
I mean, in both of them, I just want more mustard. Whether it's
all I want with my bunch of crunch,
whether it's my DJ or putting it on my pretzel, I just want more mustard.
More mustard.
Laszlo Toth walks out in the second half with like bullet holes in him and smoke coming out. Like I was like, that is such a weird message, Drake. It's like, but like even symbolically, it's like, what you're implying that you got hit repeatedly.
So everything that they said about you was true, but you're still alive. I may be a pedophile, but I'm still standing. Like, what? That's not good. You don't want that to be the message. Robonob the Snob with the €10 dono. Thank you so much, Robonob. Hey, Darren, just wanted to tell you that your reviews / columns make my day every time you release a new one. Keep it up. Darren, I second that. I am continually floored at how just consistent and prolific you could be with incredible pieces. None of them feel lazy. None of them feel half-assed. Like for fucking years, I've been editing you. It is shocking. You are the best writer I've ever edited. It's a genuine pleasure.
No, I mean, like I'm honestly thrilled to get to do it. I mean, this is the thing where it's like I feel, and I've been quite candid about this. Like I'm very insecure in terms of like being on Second Wind because I'm not a video guy. Like you guys are like video guys by nature. By the way, loved the one like Marty video I could watch and appreciate. The King Kong video game adaptation video is like feels tailor made for me because I understood that reference.
I know that
like,
monkey.
I played the game. I think we talked about it. Like the Adrian Brody, I'm out of ammo. But like generally speaking, like I am surrounded by people who are just the best at what they do in terms of video editing, and I am not that. And it is like, so I was incredibly flattered to be asked to join you guys here in the first place, but like to be given the space to do the writing, which is, you know, not to be immodest, but the thing I am less bad at than the video editing, but the thing that I hone and I feel more comfortable in doing, and being given the space and the opportunity to do that, it honestly, like it meant and it means the world to me. And I'm sorry, I'm an Irishman, I'm getting uncomfortable and emotional, but thank you, basically is what I'm saying. This is what an
Irishman was about.
Yeah, this is what an emotional Irish person looks like. I'm going to shoot you a little wide-eyed glance out of the corner of my eye, and you'll know that I have years of regret behind me.
We're going to de-age you. It's going to look kind of weird because you're going to try to kick a guy. You're going to be like, oh, you still look like a 75-year-old man trying to kick a guy.
Yeah, like again, the 250 co-host Andrew was talking to me, and he talked about like the Irishman, where it's that sequence where imagine being the guy who gets beaten up by de-aged Robert De Niro in The Irishman, going home to your wife covered in bruises, and it's like, honey, you won't believe what happened today. It's like, what happened? Well, you know the Robert De Niro guy. Oh yeah, the guy who looks like he's like 70 years old. Yeah, he was in the shop. Oh, did he fall down? Did he break his hip? No, he kicked the living shit out of me. He just
it hurts so much.
Me.
Please stop it. Yeah. That is good shit. Vactor with a $2 dono. Thank you so much, Vactor. Don't talk to each other, but here's a chess set. It is kind of funny that they give them when they go to the gorge, they're like, do not communicate with the person at the other side of the gorge. By the way, here are binoculars and a chess set. It's like, well, I feel like you're gonna kind of want to be like, shit, maybe I should play chess with this person.
I do also feel a little bit like binoculars and a chess set. If your first thought is that's going to lead to a long-term romantic relationship, you have a much better view of humanity than I do.
Listen, they're seemingly the first pair. Like they've been doing this for like 100 years, and they're the first pair to ever knock boots. So spoilers, they knock boots. It's implied boot knocking.
Yeah, because it's a gorge. They fall into the gorge. The boots.
Yeah. It's a metaphor.
It's a simile.
It's not a pussy. It's like a pussy.
Way different.
I mean, the movie does end up with Miles Teller plunging into that gorge, baby.
He does. He does fall in. He does fall in. Double Finger with a €5 dono. Thank you so much, Double Finger. Just wanted to thank Marty for being the best super chat reader, actively correcting typos and rephrasing, basically live editorializing, pure skill. I do that. Yeah, I'm not gonna like call someone out on a typo or grammatical error when they gave us money. That seems rude. That's what Yahtzee does. That's his shtick. My shtick is just to be thankful. There you go. We all got shticks. Robo Now the Snob, thank you so much for another €2. Still waiting on the Robo Geisha at movie night. Is that do we know what Robo Geisha is? Is that a movie you've watched?
If you don't, Marty, I feel like throwing it to the room isn't going to help.
Well, why do you assume I'm the one who knows what Robo Geisha? It looks exactly what it's about. It's about a robot.
You are the anime guy, right?
This is not. This is.
I know. I jumped to assumptions. I heard
yeah,
Geisha.
You know what they say about
I heard Robo.
The fall in the gorge.
Robo Geisha has ever been in a contender for our monthly movie nights. Eric is showing us some delightful stills here. Thank you, Eric.
I like that her lower half. It's like in Armored Core, where you could be like, your robot is now a tank.
Yes.
He was like, fuck it, let's just give her tank treads. And that's our Robo Geisha.
Oh, hey, look at that.
Yeah, cool sawzall. There you go.
Okay.
So yeah, maybe that is the movie. Nick Knoll with a $5 dono. Thank you so much, Nick. Hey, Jack, some bad news for you. I think your future Tubi sponsorship got snaked out from under you. Have you guys checked your old site recently? Oh my God, did the Escapists get a Tubi sponsorship before we did?
Oh boy. I love that we're doing this in real time, by the way. I love that you can see like the opening of the panel in Jack's glasses reflected.
By the way, I went to the wrong site.
What was the name of the site we used
What's the name of the website? If you go to theescapist.com, it's about RPG advocacy.
Role-playing game advocacy?
Yeah, like role-playing game advocacy.
Maybe
they just changed direction. Maybe there's just been a change in direction. Like,
what was the name of the website?
I don't know.
Yeah, I remember.
Escapist.the.
Yeah.
To want to get on the ground floors of .thes.
I don't see any Tubi here, so this might just be your own ads.
That being said, we got to get that Tubi. What are we doing?
I reached out. I sent a message, and I have not heard.
Tubi@gmail.com.
The Tubi. They have a contact me form.
Yeah, did you? I was going to say, did you reach out to their fax number?
Sussy Guru with a €5 dono. Thank you so much, Sussy Guru. Darren, Better Man or Weird? The Weird Al Yankovic biopic.
I'm gonna put my hands up and say I was not a huge fan of Weird. Like, I love the concept of it. I love the Daniel Radcliffe of it. I kind of watching it felt it reminded me a lot of Walk Hard, which is, impossible given that like every biopic reminds me of Walk Hard. And if you do a biopic comedy, you're going to remind me of Walk Hard. And Walk Hard is like the platonic ideal of like a musical biopic comedy for me. I thought it was charming. I didn't love it, unfortunately. So I would probably give it to Better Man. I'm sorry. I will say, but I give it to Better Man over, like, I liked a Complete Unknown, and I give it to a Better Man over Complete Unknown. I'm trying to think, going back, like I'd probably give it to Better Man over Walk the Line. Not Walk Hard. Is Walk Hard like the last movie that I wouldn't give it to over
Better Man or Amadeus?
That's not fair, Marty.
Better Man didn't have a Solieri monkey is the problem with Better Man.
That's the problem. Yeah, it needed an orangutan. Gary Barlow should have been an orangutan. That is a reference that 5 people listening to that podcast will get.
I liked it.
I think like Weird is an unusual movie because, like, it was based off of a sketch that the same writing director team did for funnyordie.com. A 4 to 5 minute sketch that was basically like that entire movie.
It's a great concept. Like, it's a great concept. It's an incredible concept.
It had Aaron Paul in it instead of Daniel Radcliffe playing Weird Al. It was, and by the way, the sketch was great. It was very funny, but then they stretched it out into a whole movie, and it has some fun bits, but part of you goes, man, this much like the Blues Brothers or the Blues Brothers 2000, you just go, maybe this would work better as a 4 to 5 minute segment in a much larger.
I don't think that's the problem with the Blues Brothers 2000.
I know that was just a poke. That was just to poke at you.
I've never seen the Blue Brothers 2000. I played the game. There was a Nintendo 64 game.
What?
Blues Brothers 2000.
I
Yeah,
saw
I've
it on
never
a plane and
seen
tried to leave. Yeah.
Get me off here. Harrison Ford, kick me off this plane, please. Fungus Finder with a $2 dono. Thank you so much, Fungus Finder. Marty, you growing pot out of that closet? What's that cord? I'm not growing pot out of this closet. That cord is a cheap antenna from Walgreens. So
I like that Eric has
like,
the
low
cord
TV.
model on hand. Yeah.
No, it doesn't. At the
Picture
top,
of a cord.
the thing is above. You can't see it above the closet. There's like a little like one of those kind of square antenna.
Sure.
So I can get some local channels.
For you,
God knows I love watching local television. I got to watch my soaps in the middle of the day while I'm working.
I was gonna ask, like, is it like Wayne's World? This is one of the things where I'm not American, so all of my knowledge of like American minutia comes from movies. Is it like Wayne's World?
Where works better as a skit than a movie?
Oh,
Local television.
No, I like Wayne's World. Oh,
yeah, but like, local.
Oh
like,
no.
Okay.
Well, there's some channels that are like public access, like
there are
couple
public
dudes in
access
basement.
channels. There are
Okay.
public channels that have like public access like things. I don't think we have any more things like Wayne's World in which it's pure public access, where
Okay.
like a random person can just have a half hour.
2 hours
slot.
Yeah,
a week.
I mean that's
Yeah.
just the internet now, right? Like
Yeah,
fair.
it's just the internet.
That's the. We are Wayne's World. Yeah.
That's
Right.
what this is. Yeah. Yeah, but by local channels more I mean like the local like Fox, NBC, CBS. So
Okay.
like I can watch
Okay, so-
football games in this room.
Most of it's syndicated. Again, this is just me trying to figure out how this stuff works. Most of that's syndicated programming, is it?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, fine. I mean, those networks like air like I don't know, Abbott Elementary airs on.
Oh,
Is that
okay.
what-
Okay.
Yeah, like it always surprises me when a show that I assume is like a Hulu exclusive
Yeah.
is like on TV. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. I guess that's how that works.
I was watching like television here in Ireland over Christmas, and it's like Prey is on Channel 4 this Christmas, and I'm like, wow. I'm like, it's
Yeah, interesting.
like, Disney need that money. Disney really needs that money. Yeah.
Yeah, I so rarely watch actual TV outside of sports that I forget that it exists.
Yeah,
to,
that's fair.
Millions of
fair.
people. Quintuple A with a $5 dono. Thank you so much, Quintuple. I love how the last half hour of these podcasts generally descend into madness. Yeah, that's pretty spot on if we're being honest, Quintuple.
Yeah.
And Fat Cock coming back around. It's like poetry. It rhymes. $5 dono. Any thoughts on the new Star Trek shows coming? I don't know what Star Trek's coming. What
this
Star
is
Trek
how
is
out of
coming?
touch I am. This is.
You saw a Star Trek movie recently that you did not enjoy, correct?
Oh yeah, no. Section 31 is god awful. It was originally meant to be a spin-off show starring Michelle Yeoh. It was repurposed as a movie that also ends with the promise of or threat of a TV show. To be honest, it is. It is like for a movie that stars two female Oscar winners, it is like inexcusably bad.
Who's the second one aside from?
Second was Jamie Lee
Michelle
Curtis.
Oh.
So Michelle Yeoh and so like two Oscar winners from the same movie that swept the Oscars. But yeah, it is awful. It is like it feels like a COVID production through and through, which is it's a movie about people like who have been in a bubble together on a number of standing sets, but also trying to be an epic Guardians of the Galaxy Suicide Squad-esque kind of unlikely bunch of misfits have to save the universe, but also we only have like $20 and a bunch of people who are under contract from other projects at at Paramount or CBS or whatever. Like it just does not work.
Yeah.
And it's like it's so frustrating because like setting aside like any I don't like to get into debates about like what Star Trek is or what Star Trek should be or what my preferred mode of Star Trek is. Like just setting all of that aside and ignoring any question about like what is the point of doing a Section 31 TV show in the universe of Star Trek. Like doing a Mission Impossible version of Star Trek at Paramount on Paramount Plus should be such a slam dunk idea. Like it's just mixing two flavors of like things that Paramount does well, two of the things that Paramount is known for. If you bring in like Taylor Sheridan and get him to write it, that's all of Paramount in one intellectual property. But it just does not work. It is like a spy movie by somebody who has never seen a spy movie. It is an action adventure movie by somebody who has maybe heard the plot of like Guardians of the Galaxy explained to them by somebody who heard it from their best friend on a car ride in the 1980s or something. Like it does not work. I'm trying to Google now and see what these new Star Trek shows are, because the only one I know is Star Trek Starfleet Academy, which is the spin-off from Star Trek Discovery. That is the one that is in the works at the moment. And I know that Paramount have generally been scaling down their production, where obviously they've ended Star Trek Discovery. They ended Star Trek Picard after 3 seasons. They cancelled Star Trek Lower Decks after 4 or 5 seasons.
That was the animated
They
one, right?
also cancelled Prodigy after 2 seasons. Yeah, they've cancelled the 2 animated ones. Yeah, and they. Yeah, so basically, like they have been scaling down their Star Trek production because, again, we are in a crunch. The same reason that Disney is scaling down its Marvel and Star Wars.
I was about to say they're not the only ones scaling down their grand plans. So,
yeah, and keep in mind that like Paramount has also just been it hasn't just been purchased, but it's in the middle of a purchase as well, which means that everything is particularly volatile there at the moment.
By Tubi, that's why Tubi's not responding to your emails to get ready to buy that mountain.
Do you guys have the goat? Is the goat on the mountain like a European thing, or is that also where like they're advertising Paramount now using a goat on the famous Paramount Mountain, and it's just like it is such a weird thing to build your brand.
No idea
around.
what you're talking about.
Okay, every time
I know of the idea of a goat on a mountain, but I've never associated it with Paramount.
I think it's because like I think it's because Yellowstone is so there we go. Thank you. Good job, Eric. I think it's because like Yellowstone is so American that you can't advertise Yellowstone outside of the States. So it's like, what do we got? We got a goat on a mountain. It is like
that's European.
Yep. And you can see they're using all the intellectual property there. Except in Europe, we don't get that intellectual property. We just get the goat.
Is that Keegan-Michael Key?
That's Keegan-Michael Key as his famous substitute teacher sketch from Key and Peele.
And look, you can see that
they're Dora the Explorer and one of those fucking cop dogs.
Yeah.
And
I think you'll find that's Dozer. Thank you very much. And there is a Transport Bumblebee is there in the background. Yep. Dozer is the construction dog. Yeah. Dozer's the guy who comes in and profits off the destruction caused by the other dogs. Dozer's the gentrification dog.
That's genius. The gentrification dog. Incredible.
But they used a joke. Keegan-Michael Key did a voice in Transformers 1 in which they also used the substitute teacher as a callback reference. He called one of his robots AA Ron or something.
Yeah.
So they're just do they own the rights to Key and Peele?
It's a Comedy Central show, right? So that means it's CBS, it's Paramount.
Oh, right? Yeah. So I guess
there you go.
Yeah. So like again, when you're not Disney and you live in an IPH, you gotta make lemonade out of something.
Gotta squeeze something. Squeeze whatever's nearby. It might be real monsters.
Jordan Peele ain't doing this shit for you anymore. I love Keegan-Michael Key, to be clear, but also like it is very clear that only one of Key and Peele are responding to phone calls.
Yeah, I'm glad he's working. I'm happy he's still working. That's all that matters.
Yeah. He's in the new Shane Black movie, I think.
Oh, fun.
Oh yeah, he was in Predator.
The Predator. I was
trying to remember which one his movie was.
Yeah. Fast and Furious-esque naming conventions. Predator 2.
Predator with a dollar sign at the end of it.
Yeah.
No one saw it, so it was a very
The Predator, yeah.
Yeah.
What is the sequel to The Predator going to be? The Predator 2? The Predators?
The Predator?
Yeah. With an emphasis on the accent.
And then 2 last super chats before we settle up for the afternoon. Saucy Guru with a pair of messages, both €5. Thanks, Saucy Guru. First, Jack and Darren, have you ever considered getting wigs? Do people get wigs anymore? I feel like
they do. Well, older people do. I don't know if younger people do. You see a bunch of older people with clearly wearing rugs, and
yeah.
I think bald is fashionable now. So no.
Yeah,
and also like Darren and I have been on camera enough where we couldn't get away with it even if they were very good wigs.
Guys, so Darren's about to pop on. We can't reference this on the show that these guys got wigs now. So we just got to roll through it. If there's any super chats, we're not going to read them. We just gotta pretend
it's in his rider.
Gotta pretend it's not happening.
Yeah.
Everyone
Darren writes 3 articles a week and nobody mentions the wig.
So my favorite SNL cast member, Kristen W from Bridesmaids.
Kristen W. Yep.
Who were the opposite of the Tories in 1900s British politics?
Talk about it.
At the time, they would be considered conservatives.
Liberals.
Actually, it was the Democrats who owned slaves. You didn't know that, did you?
What a pivot, Marty.
See Guru with a €5 dono. Thank you so much again. I hope the first thing happening after the Paramount purchase is the sacking of Kurtz and Goldsman. I don't know who they are. Are they
They're the guys who are running the Star Trek. They're the I don't know. I don't generally wish for the firing of people. I don't know.
Y'all just stop watching it. If you stop watching it, they'll notice. You just have to stop watching it. It hasn't been good for a while. Just stop.
That was this week's episode on Captain America: Brave New World. Don't say as we do as we say, or whatever version of that. However that works.
To be fair, yes, I am generally invited to press screenings of these things, so I don't feel guilty or obligated.
You can't just eat bunch of crunch alone in your room, Jack. People think you're fucking weird if you.
It would be weird. By the way, I think it would be weird if I got a little box of Bunch of Crunch and just ate it alone in my bedroom. Like that would be very, very strange.
That's really weird.
Yeah, it's a bit where you have to leave the bedroom to go to the kitchen to get it, and then walk back to your bedroom.
Back to the bedroom. Yeah, that would be weird.
That's the weird one.
We're going on my intermission. You're home. There's no intermission. You can just you can pause it whatever you want. Yeah, that'll do it for us for this episode of the Rewind. Jack, what have you got going on? What should folks check out? Obviously, Adventures Nigh season 4 premiered this past weekend.
That's right. So now every other Saturday, there's going to be a brand new Adventures Nigh. We are still, finishing up editing and animating all of the fun stuff. We have a few projects that we're going to try to sneak in there, bonus projects that we're going to try to sneak in there mid-season that we're very excited about. We are planning right now. Thursday, I'm going to be back with quite possibly the last Lies of P stream. Not because I'm going to finish the game, but because I'm finished with the game, if you know what I'm saying. So Thursday, Lies of P. Also Thursday afternoon for us here in Central Time is our Patreon Phoenix tier movie night. If you are a Patreon Phoenix tier, you get to watch a movie with us and we goof and spoof over a movie. Sometimes it's democratically chosen. Sometimes I just pick something. This is one of those times. Prepare for chaos.
I'm very excited. I'm extremely excited. That's going to be 3 p.m. Central on Thursday. We'll blast it out to the Discord, but that is going to be a half an hour from right this time on Thursday.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Darren, what do you got going on? I guess we're off the schedule. We used to be on the schedule where recording days would be the days a backdrop goes up, but that is no longer where we're at.
Now we interspace. So every Tuesday you get a movie drop of some description, whether it be a backdrop or this drop. So last week, obviously, we did Omar ended this fantastic video on I'm still not comfortable describing my own videos as fantastic, but Omar's work on this fantastic of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which is the Spider-Man show, which is on Disney Plus at the moment. I believe it is in its 3rd or 4th weeks as of this week, and it'll be ending next week. I had a really good time with it, and the video basically looks at the way in which that show is in conversation with popular depictions of Spider-Man, most notably Spider-Man as he appeared in the MCU, a characterization that is very squarely rooted in the 2005 through 2007 period of the comics for nerds out there. But basically what it means to be Spider-Man, what Spider-Man represents as an idea, and the relationship between the generic idea of Spider-Man as a working class neighborhood hero and the version as played by Tom Holland in a trilogy where he is largely defined by his relationship to a billionaire philanthropist playboy. And I think it's an interesting video. It's an interesting show. It's a part of the show that I find really worth talking about. So you can check that video out. It's out already. And next week we will be talking about Brave New World. We'll be looking at one of the tensions of that movie for me, which is the idea that Marvel has kind of given up on the idea of a future at all, where it doesn't feel like there is a path forward. It doesn't feel like I'm watching Brave New World and going, I want to see Sam Wilson be Captain America for the next 10 years. I want to see where this goes. It feels more like, no. We got to tidy up all the loose ends and brush them all into this little collection thing so we can get it all out of the way and we can reset to the X-Men or the Fantastic Four or whatever version of a soft reboot we are doing with like Doomsday and Secret Wars. So we'll be talking about that next week. And I'm sure that will be a perfectly level-headed comment section in which everybody is perfectly even-handed, and nobody threatens to kill me. But no, I'm kidding. Generally, the comment sections are fine. But yeah, so that we'll be talking about that next.
Generally speaking, Nick does a great job at moderating our comments.
He really does. He really does. I do need to shout out Nick on that.
Yeah.
AD or.
People get mad that you said Adior?
People got so mad that I said like pronounced or like an Irish person. I believe
It's
you guys
crazy that we pronounce things based on where we were born and grew up.
What are the odds of that?
What are the
happening?
odds?
Yeah. What is mildly irritating to me is that people clearly understand what I'm saying and still get upset. It would be one thing if they were like, I don't understand this word you keep saying. I get A and I get D, but what is this third sound?
And I'd be like, it could be anything, Darren.
And I'd be like, oh, I am so sorry. I didn't mean to confuse you, and I will make an effort to fix that. But the part of it's like, no, I know what it is. I'm just gonna be a dick about it. That's the bit that like does get a little bit under my skin.
Oh, by the way, yes, I've never left my hometown. Why do you ask?
Thank you, Eric, for your guide to Irish accents. I apparently speak with a Connacht accent, is what I've been told, which is the Northwest, because that's where I grew up.
Congrats. Oh, there you go. Proud of you.
I like the congrats. The best of the four provinces.
Gotta be one of the four best. It's one of the four best Irish accents.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. And then, rest of the stuff, we'll have a normal week with streams. I believe Nick and Jenna are going to be streaming a little Avowed in half an hour or so, or maybe an hour. I don't know if that's a 3 or 3:30, but that'll be this afternoon. And then normal streams the rest of the week. Yahtzee Tries, Firelink, like Jack mentioned, Liza P, more Metroid. And so, check out all that stuff. Also, Darren mentioned my episode in the archive on Kong went up yesterday. Jesse Schwab did an excellent job.
Beautiful.
So check that out. And then, we got all sorts of good stuff. So just tune in for all of that. We appreciate you all. And Snake in the Garden with one last €2 dono. Thank you so much. Darren, thoughts on the Oxford comma Marty adds? I do not add Oxford commas to Darren's writing anymore. I stopped doing that when we came over to Second Wind.
Okay, sorry.
Oh. No, you don't have to apologize. That's just something I stopped doing. I just used to, one of the only edits I would make is I would add the Oxford comma, because that is something you do not use based on how you learned it to write in the English language.
I respect whatever. Like I drop my U's. I'm very accepting of your strange customs over in that side of the world.
Flavors, sure.
Yeah, colors. Harbors.
I think I would only add. I would only add it in. I am very pro Oxford comma, and I would only add it in. I think in a headline if you would write that, but rarely are you going to use an Oxford comma.
Honestly, like you're an editor. I trust your instincts on this sort of stuff. Like it's your job to know that stuff. So I generally defer to you. Same thing with John, and obviously like same thing with Liam, and same anybody's edited me. It is your job to edit me. You know this stuff. I'm not going to fucking tell you your job.
I think it is the way you use it is not incorrect, and it is part of your personality in the writing. I think personally. So there you go. Just like how typos part of my personality. I just make up words. It doesn't matter. What am I going to do? A red squiggly line? You can't stop me from publishing this on the internet.
What was it John observed? Like how you know it's a Darren article is there are like 5 to be fairs in there. That's how you know it's a Darren article.
But you're not spelling a TUBI, so that's
no, I'm not.
That's why we're not getting that sponsorship.
That's why we're not getting.
To be fair. Perfect. Thank you all so much for joining us for this episode of The Rewind. Thank you, everyone who watched live on YouTube, everyone listening on a podcast service of choice, watching the VOD, and especially shout out to all of our patrons. We appreciate every single one of you. Absolutely. So for Jack and Darren and Eric, this was Marty. Rewind episode number 15. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your afternoons and evenings, and we'll see you all later.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
I'm the monkey from The Monkey.